everybody, and welcome to the Burning Minds Podcast, episode number 12. Oh, I'm liking that I adjusted that intro. So now it does the fade out on its own. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Sounds great.
And then, of course, we've got one empty camera space up over on this side, thanks to...
right there, that one.
It's because he's taking forever to find the stream on his thing.
Never cross the streams.
On my laptop.
Never cross the streams.
Never cross the streams. You never cross the streams.
How else are you supposed to play
Okay.
Sword Fight?
Does it at least sound decent? That's all I care about. If it sounds decent, we can stop it because we don't need to run it.
Good to me.
All right.
Dead air.
That's
Dead
okay.
air.
Let's do
Dead
it.
air.
I put 5
Dead
seconds.
air. Dead air. Dead air. Dead air.
That's a thing. That's all. That's way too much of a thing. In fact, both of you need to stop.
We can, but why
We
would
won't. Yeah, exactly. We did not in Okinawa. Why would we do it here, right? Right.
Oh, I want a big dog.
Yes. All right. So then, this episode is randomly dedicated, thanks to Mother Dearest, to her two guys, Jake and Mark.
Aw.
Just random. She that was what she called me about when I first was first talking with you guys. Yeah, that's what she was calling about because she told them that she would not fucking sing them happy birthday because they're twins. So
What a fascist! You won't sing Happy Birthday?
no, but
Terrible.
she gave them birthday gifts and like dinner and all that stuff. But she's not a singer. She just won't do it. So that's all.
I got it for my last birthday.
All right.
All Terry got for his last birthday was a ring.
Cock ring.
Yeah, there you go. God damn it! Put your fucking.
That's the right type of ring. You there? You happy?
Yes.
You fuck.
fucking
What do you do
do your job
with
right.
it yourself?
What do I pay you for?
Well, it's a lot more work to drop into volcano safely.
All right. Well, we'll jump right into stuff here. So our first,
Hop in. The water's fine.
like a frog jumping into boiling water.
So I take it doesn't take the ring to provide invisibility then?
is this a matter of being hung like a tuna can, or is this,
Ah.
it's not? There's not much length to it, but it'll stretch out the sides.
Just a matter of
Well, I
non-existence.
got one of those pumps on the way for that.
Ah, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's the one they used in Mythbusters to try to collapse the train car.
Wait,
I found it
Yes.
on eBay.
they were selling
Basically,
it dirt
Craigslist.
cheap, man. Fucking dirt cheap. Oh shit, man, that's fucking great. You know what then? Fuck it, let's use that one first. Now you've made me want to. So
Do you see what you've done?
yeah, here we go. So getting it over to here. First video.
Cocks for Glocks.
Hell yeah.
Cocks not Glocks. Sorry, yeah. This ridiculous fucking anti-gun bullshit. I say that anybody should be allowed to carry either a gun or a dildo openly on campus.
No, you're not allowed to carry the dildo at all, but you're allowed to carry the gun openly. That's the whole basis of the argument.
Well, I believe that.
Why- wait, what?
I believe
Why
that
not?
people should be allowed to carry both.
Why
Because
are
dildos hurt their feelings, but guns are just fun and happy things.
Well, I don't know. That one on this kid's backpack looks like it has a suction cup, and it might be a little not for human consumption.
No.
Hey man,
That's one
if
of the
you can unhinge your
smaller
jaw
ones
just
that I've
right,
seen.
it doesn't matter.
There you go. See,
you
plus
can-
though, I think they use the same standard as knives. It has to be no longer than the width of your palm. You know,
That
That
that's
just
to
doesn't do
carry it
anything.
concealed.
definitely
was-
not carrying concealed.
He should have just used that suction cup on his forehead. He would have made a better statement. He could have appealed to the bronies and protested.
Princess Dildo Corn.
Yeah.
It's the cockacorn.
Oh yes, it
The
is
unicock.
the unicock. Oh my god. Speaking of which, my background is Luna. I've got a Luna Pone on my.
You've got
fucking
your
background.
Luna Pone.
I do.
gun. Worst
I like-
princess.
Worst princess. It doesn't matter. I just like the coloring.
Is that
Yeah.
the
So
toxic
this is.
that comes to your forehead, or are you just happy to see me?
So why are they? Why is it the dildos are they're not legal to be carried? Is that what you said?
They're legal to have it all because it's Texas, and oh my God, sex!
They've got one of those laws that says you're not allowed to have dildos in the state, but who's actually going to come in and check?
It's considered an obscene and an unlawful item there. But then they passed a ordinance at the exact same time allowing students to openly carry on campus.
Yeah,
So
I don't know, man. Well, I mean, if you've ever wanted to see a more wretched hive of scum and villainy, it's fucking Texas. So
Indeed.
there's only a few places that are much worse than that. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of them involve a guy with a funny hat and a bunch of dudes standing behind him with AK-47s.
No, I think
Texas gets seriously misrepresented.
They have the Texas statute
Obscenity statute.
4321 that bars the sale and
He's actually looking them up.
of obscene devices. Now, how they define obscene, I'm sure it's anything
Helen Lovejoy
bigger
makes
than
a
a
list.
pinky because that's their measuring stick.
Oh,
But
no. Helen Lovejoy just makes the list every Sunday.
Won't somebody please think of the children? It's
The
the old
children are
fucking
going,
argument.
we love dicks.
Yes. The kids are like, you guys are just, all in all, looking at, this is a pretty stupid kind of thing, just in general, from what I'm seeing. It's a weird form of protest against the whole thing. But I guess it's one of those things where I just don't give a flying fuck. This is more comedy gold to me. Like, you know what? I mean, when they start carrying the extra large chance from Bad Dragon, which is a gigantic horse dildo, then I will start laughing. I'll be just
did you not
falling
watch
over.
the whole video?
You might want to let that scroll on a
Yeah.
little bit. They break out some fine instruments of destruction in this.
Oh, okay. I must not have seen it yet.
I think they used sorority and fraternity money to go destroy the inventory of the local dildo emporium.
No, but here's the thing about this whole situation that I find funny. I cannot find a single article, newspaper mention of any opposition to this protest, even though technically by Texas statute, both are illegal.
Guys,
I don't know. There's nothing to say.
In hopes to repeal the campus carry law. That's the whole point of it. It's not that they actually want it to be legal to carry dildos in public. They're doing it because they want other people to not be allowed to carry guns in public. The way I look at it is people should be able to carry either or in public. Hell, go for both. Strap a dildo to the top of your fucking gun.
hey, now that would make a statement.
Damn
yeah.
straight it would.
I mean, I'm actually rather surprised that Tarantino hasn't done it yet.
You know what? I'm surprised that in this case, no one who has who has one of these dildos has ever attempted to try and shove that into the end of anyone's gun. It's like the flower, the hippie flower thing, right? Instead, you're shoving a dildo into it.
How small of a dildo would you need?
It's not how small of a
Fit into-
dildo. It's how much lube and how much force you can put into it.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm sorry, but gun barrels don't have give.
Oh yeah, they do. You put enough
Yeah,
pressure
these-
behind it, they'll give.
Put enough
Hey,
heat
Briggs,
behind it,
were
they'll
you
give.
the first time?
Oh god.
Anyway, yeah, they're doing this to try and get the open carry law repealed. So they're not doing it for anything. They're doing it to try and limit other people's freedoms.
Sounds about
Well,
right.
there's absurd balance.
They just don't want guns on the school campus, is what they're saying.
So
they're
what?
trying to do this.
They
They're
don't
not,
want guns on the school campus. Apparently, some people do want guns on the school campus. Do those people's opinions not matter? Are these people the only opinions that matter just because they're carrying around dildos every day?
It's called a democracy.
Exactly,
yeah, but that's-
and
that's- I think
the
that's kind of his
democracy
point.
decided that guns are legal to carry on a college
Right.
campus.
The democracy can also decide that they're going to say neither one of them can be on campus. And then there, nobody's happy, so everyone's happy.
Just like they did with the draft, to go the fucked up route.
instead of getting rid of the draft,
instead of allowing
fucking-
both of these, they'll just
Yeah.
ban both of them. Instead of with the draft, instead of eliminating it, they just made men and women eligible. It's just like.
Yep.
But you should be able to carry a dildo and a gun. on a
Well, like I
college
said,
campus, I think
in Texas in general,
campus,
it's just like
for campus
whatever about
safety, for
dildos.
fuck's sake.
I don't see.
The campus safety argument is moot because never in the history of these mass shootings has anyone with a gun been able to protect any of them. So
Yes, there have been. There was just a few months ago a shooting at a bar where a man opened fire and a concealed carry person stopped him by shooting him.
this sounds like one anecdotal evidence.
But that I could find the article. It's old, but it has happened. And there's the fact that maybe the whole reason why, I don't know, schools are pretty top of the list when it comes to targets for mass shootings. And what
You don't-
our
you
school
don't-
look at the statistics. Almost every single mass shooting takes place in a gun-free zone. Why? Because the person that's going there to kill people knows for a fact nobody there is going to even have the chance to defend themselves.
Why not address the underlying issue to cause someone to go out and commit mass shootings? That
Well,
problem
that
would
there's
be
there's
solved.
there's so
Bec-
many.
because-
Hang on. There's so many potential probable causes for someone to go out and commit mass shootings. How do you stop all of them? How do you stop someone who's just mentally insane versus someone who's got an agenda to do so, especially one who
Usually
maybe
that's
doesn't
not the
say
case.
anything?
It's
about it.
not usually one psychopath doing it. It's someone who, over a prolonged period of time, has been objectified to a situation that they feel that this is the only option. And how do you solve the issue? You solve it one problem at a time.
Well, yeah, and I got that, but that's the thing about us actually, properly taking care of other members of our own species, which is something that we in the human race apparently don't have a very good grasp on, given how many people we allow to have fucking suffering everywhere throughout this entire fucking world, right? We as humans are not really necessarily the best to each other, so we tend to miss the signs a lot of the time, at least from what I've seen. We tend to miss a lot of the signs of people that are struggling with something, and to be able to stop them and help them before they commit an act that is irrectifiable.
Well, there is the fact
word.
that you should try and prevent it, but prevention can only go so far. There is no such thing as a 100% guaranteed means of prevention for anything. There is no way to truly make absolutely sure that nothing is going to happen
yeah.
except for with pregnancy and abstinence.
Show me someone that says that they can make anything absolutely safe, and I'll show you safety theater because it doesn't work. However,
Exactly, but
I would have thought that
there should be
stricter
prevention, but the
penalties
prevention
on
only
bullying
goes
and
so far.
cyberbullying and laws to address that would have came before, hey, let's just bring a gun to school.
Sorry, I missed a small part of that.
Well, it's a lot easier to allow the people to defend themselves rather than to take years upon years trying to rehabilitate some mentally ill person who may just go out and shoot up a school just because of their mental illness.
What you've said there is it's easier to give them a gun, so let's not address that the other.
No, I'm not
overriding
saying
issue
the
of
other
this.
issue shouldn't be addressed. I'm just saying the other issue takes way longer and a lot more problems could arise in that period of time. So give them a means to defend themselves for the meantime while we address the larger base issue.
And frankly, all
Nobody
four
said
of us
they're
being
ignoring
service
the
members in this
prevention.
group, not every Joe Blow and Tom, Dick, and Harry out there should even be toting a gun. Most
Yes,
of them are
so-
untrained and going to panic in the situation and make a far graver mistake, like shooting another innocent, than actually protect anyone. The people that would be in the frame of mind to protect you in those situations are few and far between.
This
The
is true.
likelihood of
This is
that
true.
type of person being there is minuscule.
Yeah, and that to a lot to some decent extent is true. So, I've seen one of my fucking buddies who was out in Afghanistan with me. I wouldn't trust him with anything, with any kind of sharp weapon, just because we've already seen what he's willing to do with it, and he was willing to pull his 249 fully loaded with a full drum underneath on the first sergeant in the middle of formation. No one, like, what do you do in that situation, right? So people like him, of course, they should definitely not be doing that. However, there's something to be said about, I don't know, I personally have mixed feelings on this, simply because I understand the want to have protection in that situation, and sometimes people believe they can protect themselves better. But again, not having necessarily the training or the understanding of what it's like in a stressful situation like that, they are far more likely, statistically, far more likely to fucking kill somebody else on accident whilst trying to stop the situation.
The best form of protection in any situation is vigilance. Be
You have to-
aware. Don't be dicking around on Pokemon Go, lost in your own little bubble. If I'm walking around and I notice someone that looks like they're in trouble or in some form of emotional state where they might commit an act of violence, I'm more likely to say something to them than I would be if I were stuck looking at this little 3-inch screen.
But what does that have to do with anything? Where did somebody being stuck staring at a phone even come into the equation until you mentioned it?
He's talking about being vigilant with everything that's going on around
yeah,
you, because you shouldn't just be
show me
reactive.
the evidence that the gun-carrying students on this campus aren't vigilant. Show me the evidence that they aren't.
He's seriously talking about not being reactionary to everything.
One point that I was trying to make a couple minutes ago is the fact that you do have a higher concentration of people who are trained in the use of guns and know how to use them safely in places where guns are allowed. It's the places where it's a lot harder to get a gun where you have people that don't know shit about guns. Like most people out here in Arizona, one of the most gun-friendly states in the
Texas,
country.
And you're not going to get me to believe this about Texas, because that was one of the easiest places to get a gun. I had a friend who was able to go in one weekend and purchase a gun from local Megalomart type store, and he used it to commit suicide in the same day. So guns are readily available, especially in Texas, but I would make the argument heavily in the United States. And I before you go out and just say give everyone a gun to defend themselves, I would personally look at addressing the more deep-seated issue. I'm all about fixing the actual problem, not the symptom.
So, out of curiosity,
fixing the problem takes so long? We need a temporary solution until that's achieved, or do you just want to let the problem continue until the long term is achieved?
Hang on, that's okay. So let me come at that from like almost a business perspective. Sometimes you don't want to have someone random or something random in place of something that was better, just because you're trying to work with something. You're trying to work with an intermediary. Say you fire a manager for some reason, or they leave, and you don't have anyone in that position. Just because you don't have something there doesn't mean that it's going to all fucking fall apart.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to not have something there until a better means of fucking fixing a problem comes into play.
Hey, speaking of things that are
This
there,
is a fine.
Yeah.
can I just point out that the entire time that this argument's been going on, there's been two veiny 10-inch white dicks on the screen?
I've noticed that, and I've also noticed that that the girl in the center there has a big old fucking floppy dick between her tits.
It doesn't matter. All three of them have a resting bitch face. Like they could not be more bored by those dicks.
At least they
I
don't.
I don't
have
know
the
whether they're
fish
too
mouth.
big or too small.
They're like,
but,
I'd never be able to take any of this. Let's move on. So I mean, have fun here.
Let's put a dildo in the hands of every pissed off college student who hasn't been heard in this safety conversation.
That's a campaign slogan I can get behind.
Dildos for everyone.
See, there you
Monster.
go.
Oh, that's creepy. There you go.
Yeah, I mean they got the what's his name? That's not the Black Mamba. Oh God, there's a name for that gigantic one. I forget the name of the person.
You just know that every guy that met her that day is that from your personal collection?
Come to Texas. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Oh, that was fun. Oh God. I don't know. Like I said, it's just it's a weird situation, a weird thought. I don't really know where to stand on it because I guess it's just such a moot point to me because I don't really care. Somebody's going to do something stupid with it, and there's going to be a problem with it, and it's just going to be this back and
Dildos
forth
against
with
the
it.
Second Amendment.
No one's going to win in this situation, no matter how you look at it.
You know, maybe I'm the weird one, but maybe I'm just hoping that somebody actually decides to try to pull a gun and it gets pelted to death by dildos, just so we can have that headline.
I would love that. I would love that.
Deranged shooter buried under mountain of slightly used dildos.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't even think
Slightly
about
used.
it. That ain't. You know what?
Still
Briggs,
sticky.
By all accounts, every student with a dildo in his hand has a bludgeoning weapon at this point and is therefore armed to be able to defend themselves against this hypothetical mass shooter. So there you go. There's your solution.
You're
Not necessarily.
you're the
not,
fool
not
who
all
brought
of
a
those
dildo
dildos
to a
were big enough
gunfight.
to be considered a bludgeoning weapon.
I'm sorry,
So-
you kind of up there.
Not all of those dildos were large enough to be considered a bludgeoning weapon. There was that one attached to the backpack that looked to only be about 4 inches in length, maybe 5.
Hey man,
Okay, so then
that'll
we
still
correct
cause a lot of
that.
anal ruptures.
Yeah, we get everybody a giant black mamba.
But the matter
Yeah.
of fact still remains that I believe people should be allowed to carry both.
And you know what? I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you if you want to own a weapon. I just don't think it belongs carried around in school. You're far more likely to be a victim of gun violence in an area where guns are.
Where they're not.
Yeah.
But
Tell that to Chicago, which has some of the strictest gun laws in the country.
no, he's literally talking about the actual physical absence of weaponry in that area.
Yeah, but
and no one coming in. He's
but-
just talking
but
about
guess
the
what?
physical absence of
Gun
them in that area.
laws don't reduce the number of actual weapons.
He
among
never said
criminals.
that.
That's
He
the
never
thing.
said that. He never said that.
Okay, the thing is, not having an open carry law, anybody that's going to just go around shooting people at that school, they're not going to care if they're allowed to carry that gun on campus. They're still going to carry that gun on campus. It
Well,
doesn't
that's
matter
true.
if they're allowed to or not.
Well, then let's flip that scenario to the other side. What if the law stands and everyone decides that they're going to bring their weapon to school or whatever, and then that one guy who has had an open carry weapon for however long has a bad day or gets pushed just to the point where he shoots, just because you have an open
And then
carry
he gets
license
19
and
bullets in his
doesn't
body
you're
and he
less
goes down.
likely to shoot someone either.
There was a situation in Texas last year. My friend Ben, who lives in Texas, actually showed me the
cool.
article on this. He was Ben was on our first
We need to have him
primary
back.
podcast. No, the second podcast.
Yeah, we need to have him back.
But there was actually a Islamic terrorist attack with 2 shooters in Texas, in public. Nobody died except the shooters because an open carry person put them down. They pulled out their weapons
that's great,
and got
but
put
you're
the fuck
just as
down.
likely to be shot by someone who has been a responsible gun owner in those situations. Just because in that situation it worked out doesn't mean that it's likely to happen every time.
But even if that responsible gun owner, if they are going to illegally kill somebody, they're not going to care if there's a law against it.
Yes,
Even if they
laws
are a
don't
legal
stop
gun owner.
rapists. I got you.
The fact that people are allowed to open carry is not increasing the gun crime. There has been no crime increase in gun violence during the time that this open carry law has been in place.
Want to chime in on this?
It's stayed pretty much baseline.
Well,
Unfortunately, I don't know what statistics you're drawing from, and I don't have that many statistics to be able to throw back at you. I just know that whether you're a responsible gun owner or a criminal, neither of those precursors, neither of those determining factors have anything to do with your likelihood to shoot someone with your gun. I am just as likely to be shot by a police officer or a responsible gun owner as I am a criminal. As long as guns are in the mix, the likelihood of either situation happening is equal, in my opinion.
Well, let's we'll go ahead and move on from this one.
Yeah, let's go
next
into a
video.
less controversial topic like baby murder.
Baby
Uh,
murder.
all right,
I'm
well-
down for some
Oops,
of that.
yep, wrong one. There we go.
Oh,
Jim
God.
Baker.
Oh, God. Roll the fetus bucket. Roll the fetus bucket.
Somebody who disagrees
Can't hear
with
it.
trying
the
to kill us.
Bible,
Yeah.
and you speak, but they have an agenda,
Look how pristine that fucking
it's
Bible
Mike.
is.
and if you won't stop, they are going
He
to
like
kill you.
stuck a bunch of random paperwork in there to make it look like he bookmarked a spot, but that thing is fucking pristine. Look at that.
Yep.
He has never cracked that thing in reality once.
You gotta love Christians. So you look at their Bibles, and the spine is fucking still like, pressed fresh. Yeah.
I think we've had that conversation before, a couple of
Yep.
times.
Numerous times.
Well, he's an example of it. Wait till he flips that Bible up. Look at the spine and look for cracks in it.
Back when I was young, when I was still Mormon, my Bible was fucking dog-eared. I was reading that thing all the time. That's part of the reason why I ended up turning against the faith, is because I started reading all this shit, and it's just like, wait a minute.
Well, there's always the old statement that
Logic kind of kicked in, and I was just like, none of this makes a whole lot of sense anymore.
well, there's the old statement that the best way to prove the Bible wrong is to read the Bible, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's however it's actually said. I'm probably fucking that up. The best argument against religion is reading the Bible. That's what it is, something like that.
All right, fetus bucket. What do you got for this week?
Do you understand this? You understand
I
this?
do.
Do
I've
you
had death
understand?
threats.
We have
this?
never lived in a day of our time, in our history of America,
People want to kill Jim
where
Baker.
you couldn't have an opposite opinion. Now, they're determined to wipe out all of those who disagree with them. I mean,
Yes,
that
the
to me,
SJWs are. The social justice warriors are looking to wipe out anybody that disagrees with them. I fully believe that.
What has he got next to him? Is that like a battery charger for like a golf cart battery?
Come on, all back there.
Oh my God, Baker is a robot.
No, man, it's not Baker. It's his wife that's plugged in.
She's
she's-
charging. That's why
she's the
she's not on
smarmy-
screen right now. She's
Yep.
charging. There
'Cause
we go.
she's the smarmy, like, I don't really care. I used to be a pot smoker and just keep selling these fucking bonus buckets, you old haggard piece of shit. That's kind of all she does, really, just not in so many words.
is hideous. And just like I was talking about, protesting is one thing. If you do it quietly and you're going to say, hold up a sign and say, I don't agree with you.
You can protest as long as you don't protest.
Yes.
That makes absolutely no sense to me.
Civil disobedience is never supposed to be either convenient or, convenient.
Civil
to you.
disobedience is also not supposed to be violent and destructive.
Well, no. Let's say civil disobedience is never meant to be met with your approval or with your convenience. But it doesn't. Yes, but I would agree that civil disobedience, by definition, should be nonviolent.
Killing you.
Yeah.
And that's what they're calling for now. They're calling for death. And
Yeah,
the death is terrorism.
Did he
The
make
death
this in PowerPoint
source-
or publish it?
Source Breitbart. So it was made in a bathroom stall at a 76 truck stop, high on meth.
Said the fucking Marxist.
A white.
Oh yeah, no, I'm pulling out my mustache this week. Just fuck Breitbart. They've had one accurate news story in 5 years.
Breitbart, while biased, is actually one of the more legitimate news organizations.
Isn't that exactly the opposite? Like being legitimate and being
No, because
like
you can
partisan.
you can still give the truth with a bias rather than just outright reporting lies.
Truth and bias don't really go hand in hand. By definition, you're more likely to skew toward your opinion with a bias than report on actual truth. But I
True.
find that problem with all media today. CNN,
But then
C-SPAN,
it's not just their reporting either. Like this, for example, I have seen
ESPN.
actual evidence of this happening. Black Lives Matter members tweeting out death to white people, death to cops, literally asking for the deaths of these people.
Yeah, we have another
and
video about that
I
later.
would call them just as terrorist as ISIS or any other Al Qaeda
As
group.
anybody should, but the majority of people, including Hillary Clinton and President Obama, say that they aren't. They're just oppressed
I'm aware of
protesters.
that. I think that those aspects of the Black Lives Matter group are the ones that are hurting the movement more than helping. When you call, if you're sitting there for the death of cops, which I have family members that are police officers, so I very much stand with them on not all, but some issues. But whenever you're calling for the death of anyone, then I just tone you out because you're not helping your movement.
Well, that's the thing, though, and that's the one thing I've mentioned a couple of times now, and I think we've all agreed on this, that the problem with all these movements is that they're always beholden to their lowest common denominator, i.e. the people that are always screaming death to cops, death to white people, death to,
Well, that's what you get with a decentralized authority. Any system in which relies upon a decentralized authority is open to be co-opted by any actor, including actors that are essentially doing false flag operations. The agent provocateurs that come into a group with this express purpose of discrediting the entire organization, no matter how positive their outlook is.
So
when it comes to Black Lives Matter specifically, the organization was founded by a group of people that idolize a cop killer.
I didn't hear.
I'm not going to get into the weeds on that one, Briggs. I'm just saying, look, during Occupy Wall Street, there was very direct evidence that showed that agent provocateurs from the FBI and from other outside agencies were sent into the Occupy groups to incite violence. The most notorious example, which was the breaking of the windows on the Wells Fargo building next to Zuccotti Park, was actually not by anybody who claimed to be part of the Black Lives or part of the Occupy Wall Street movement. And turned out later on that it turned out to be 3 FBI agents trying to incite the group to follow their lead and destroy property so they could go in and make mass arrests. Agent provocateurs are used by states and anti-movement actors every time there is one. Now the trick is trying to figure out which one is which.
Well, and also, it's not like this idea that you're beholden to your lowest common denominator is a new thing, especially in this day and age of mass media and 24-hour coverage and all this shit like that. Any organizer of a group, I think, is beholden to that idea and should recognize when members of his or her movement are helping or hurting the message.
Yeah, that's the other thing is none of these people have been denounced by the organization at all. Never once has the organization of Black Lives Matter denounced any of these people that are calling.
Again, that's a decentralized movement. Both of the things that you guys are talking about are incumbent upon a hierarchical command structure, a hierarchical organizational structure in which there's a clear delineation of responsibilities, including spokes duties. When you have somebody who can go out and be a spokesperson for the organization and say that these are the goals, ideals, and standards of our organization for membership, it's easy to denounce agent provocateurs and to denounce rogue members of the organization who are not acting within the faith of your message. All right? Look at the civil rights movement. There was a handful of direct central actors and authorities that were able to say, no, our message is one of nonviolence and nonviolent civil disobedience. Now in Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, a lot of these new grassroots organizations are entirely decentralized over the internet, meaning anybody anywhere can claim to be part of a movement, hold up a homemade sign, and be considered representational of the whole. Whether it's true or not is not something you can find out because there's no clear line of chain of command to go after and say, hey, what are your people doing? And have them go, that's not us.
The same thing can be flipped. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And if you, as a member of the Black Lives Matter group, see this, you should be just as appalled as anyone else. And should, if you're part of this decentralized group, stand up and say, hey, I'm a part of this group and I support them because X, Y, Z, but I do not support what this small group said because they don't.
It's a fair statement.
Exactly. That's the way it should be, but that's not the way it is. I haven't seen a single I've actually on my Twitter account I've looked it up and just in the hashtag of Black Lives Matter, you'll see all this death to white people, death to cops, and when you look at that, you look at all the replies to that, you don't see a single Black Lives Matter person saying this is not the type of thing you should be spreading in our name. You don't ever see any members of the group denouncing the actions of this lower denominator of member.
Well, you also have, not only do you have two factors going on there. One is a group mentality, and two, the diffusion of responsibility. Since there is no centralized command authority within that group, there's nobody there to say, hey, fucking hold on, guys, let's not get carried away. Meanwhile, everybody
Why
goes,
aren't the
well,
three
somebody else
founders?
will do it. Somebody else whose name is higher up in the profile of society
Yeah.
is going to say it, so they all step back. It's the same thing that happens if somebody falls down in front of a group of people. Everybody looks at each other, waiting for the person who has the most authority in the group to step forward and handle
Well,
the problem. Diffusion of responsibility is a real crowd acting situation.
Well,
And
if
that's what you're
anybody,
having,
you
crowd-
would think that the three founders of the movement would have come out as some sort of like top of the hierarchy bit saying we denounce these actions.
Yes, but again, this is a decentralized internet-based authority system. So, in that, you're also making several assumptions. One, that the people who would be considered or able to be considered the central authorities for this group have a direct awareness of the statements being made using a hashtag, which a hashtag is not an organizational message. I can put Black Lives Matter on anything. I've done it before because I agree with the core message that black people should not face undue hardship in our society simply based on the metric of race. That's the barest thing I can do as a white person to aid that thought and say, yes, I also say that this is a wrong action. But the fact is, anybody can do that. And also that not everybody is going to be scanning through all of the Black Lives Matter thing. And it's not like there's a Congress of black people somewhere. They're sitting around scanning Twitter feeds 24 hours a day to alert Batman and Robin that somebody's saying kill Whitey on Twitter.
But as
Jesse
it happens,
Jackson, the leader of all black
it's
people.
scouring the media.
The
It's
most
called media.
the
They
most
find
interesting
it, and they will fixate on that.
the
That's
most
fine.
interesting
Yeah.
thing about it is anytime you do see anybody reply and anybody actually denounce these people to their face, the person denouncing them is immediately called a racist if they are white, and they are immediately called a coon or a house nigger if they're black. So denouncing these people makes you a horrible person, yet
So here's the mindset that, or the thought that I have, and I'm just going to voice this thought and then move on. If the three founders said anything against the group, as far as their actions in many of these situations, do you think anyone would actually listen to them because they prefer to have things their own way?
maybe, but
Just
then
a thought.
at least somebody that was at least figuratively in charge of the group.
But I'm talking about the three owners coming out and saying, no, you fuck nuggets. You're not supposed to be burning down fucking buildings, you retards. The fuck's wrong with you? Do you think they would listen? No, I don't think so. I think they would say that, no, they're not part of the actual movement. They're not what Black Lives Matter stands for, despite them building it.
It would shine a lot better on the movement as a whole if they did so.
Not if everyone else still went out and started being stupid about it and denouncing the people who made it.
But then the people who saw them come out and as the founders of the movement itself denouncing those actions, they would be able to make a clear distinction between the Black Lives Matter movement that you shouldn't be following and the Black Lives Matter movement that you should be.
And that's assuming
Instead of just clumping them all together as one thing because nobody is condemning any of the bullshit, even if they do disagree with it.
Well, and again, you also have the mob mentality going on here. What Thierry is saying is right. That at this point, whether they're being denounced or being ignored for what they're saying, or simply that at this point that the animal has gotten loose, Dr. Frankenstein's monster is now in the village. You intended it for one purpose, but now it's doing something entirely other.
Yeah.
Some people choose to simply walk themselves away from the problem. Now, these people might be seeing the problems that you're seeing and going, well, this is fucking terrible. But they know that they're going to be lambasted by their own group for going against the collective will because there is no centralized authority. That's the problem with all decentralized authority systems. An entirely centralized authority can be feudalistic or fascist. A decentralized authority means that literally anybody can claim authority. And when that happens, all it takes is a louder voice in the room to discredit even the people who started it. Now the monster's gotten away from you and it's burning the village down.
Well, yeah, and then let's not forget that the nature of our flyby media nowadays, what do we want? Dead cops. When do we want it now? Makes for a hell of a lot better soundbite and gets more ratings than Black Lives Founders denounce naysayers in the group. It's just not going to happen. So even if
But the
We
thing
don't-
is, you don't see like CNN reporting on the prior one. You would see them reporting on the latter.
Nah.
The
If
leftist
we
media
would,
does
it
not
would've happened by now.
the leftist
Yeah.
media does not report on the violent aspect of the Black Lives Matter movement. They avoid it at all cost. It's the
Oh, of course
right
they do.
it's the right biased media that focuses on it the most.
Oh yeah, but here's the thing. Let's think of the optics of having
If
Anderson.
there was any
Cooper's
chance for the
albino
leftist
ass
media to
walk out
virtue
saying,
signal,
Shut up, Fluffy! Go ahead, Boyd.
Okay. No, I mean, like, think of the optics of having Anderson Cooper go out there talking. It's the same as me saying these things. I have
For
no.
any of us.
Well, no, I'm saying if I were to choose to say that I had some form of group authority over the issue, then yeah, obviously I'm not the right skin complexion to be making those statements. But I can say that I'm an ally.
Damn
and in the
whitey.
fact that I can say that I'm an ally, say I would prefer to be allied to an organization that's nonviolent. And I would prefer that the news organizations play, at least go back and knock on a door. Because as far as I know, I've not even seen the founders that you're talking about.
I didn't
That-
know there were.
No, there's a few people that started the thing off, but I've not seen CNN knocking on their doors like the old days, going, "Hey, what do you think?" Normally they wait for these people to come to them in the pundit role and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, we got so and so on the line. They want to say something about it, not
well,
hey,
exactly.
You
If,
started this
if
organization
they
and now
came
like
out
asking
and
questions."
said publicly that they were denouncing those actions, then a place like CNN would definitely be broadcasting the fuck out of that.
No, they
If
wouldn't.
they came out to them and said, we want to denounce these actions, CNN would have their people all over that 24 hours a day.
Maybe.
As long
Let's-
as there was
let's-
controversy, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep moving on the video. Otherwise, we're never gonna get through anything.
Okay.
It's to scare you so you will step back into the shadows.
Right.
And the church has mostly stepped back.
That's right.
Okay, he had nothing worthwhile to say. Damn it, Jim Baker! Can't you be a fail whale fucking somewhere else? Not on my show.
You know what? I'm tired of listening to Jim Baker or hear about Jim Baker. I've expressed my opinion about what I consider to be the lowest common denominator within the Christian organization in the past. I want to know who the hell that yes man in the background is. That yeah, boss.
That's one of those things. Like, to actually understand who that is, usually you have to go back and watch the actual episode of Jim Baker, because Right Wing Watch takes like they just take snippets of like the most crazy shit that they can personally find that they feel fits within that, like, this is the very weird right wing ideology of one thing or another, and it doesn't really matter what the topic is. So
I got you.
yeah.
It's. I
They
guess it
do
doesn't
like
matter.
to quote
I
mine a
think-
lot.
I
However,
just-
They do.
when it comes to Jim Baker, it doesn't matter where you're quote mining. Everything is just fucking crazy.
Yeah, but that's why we just get to laugh at him a lot.
I cannot hear Briggs.
Oh, okay. Let me crank him up just a little bit. You also got to keep your mic a little bit closer to your mouth. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Lick it.
Lick the mic. Lick the book. Lick the book. Book.
Vibrate on that thing.
Yeah, I've never read it either.
No, whether you're talking from the left or the right, whether you're coming from Jim Baker's perspective or the Black Lives Matter perspective, at least the ones that are proclaiming for the violence that, as Jim Baker claims, I find that you're equally wrong. Again, my opinion, I think as long as you're coming from two polarized positions like that, then you're never going to get anywhere. I think human beings, as social creatures, we should work more towards a central compromising things. Not everyone's going to be happy, but we could work towards a place where everyone can be content.
Yeah, and that's my mindset. I would like to see that happen, but I guess looking at it from a slightly realistic perspective, I don't tend to see that actually happening as much.
Realism
just
kind of
because-
puts a crutch in that.
Yeah, it's just because there are some people out there that refuse at all costs to ever have to change anything that they either think, believe, like, or anything. So, and I'm not necessarily faulting anyone for that. It's kind of their nature. But I would love to see it happen. I would love to see it that we as human beings would be taking steps towards that in a better fashion.
Yeah, do you know why that is, though, Allison? It's because that we have been conditioned to believe that it's one or the other. That our options are limited to dichotomy. To
Well, yeah,
this
and that's
or
and I
that, this or that. And when often, if you really take a moment to look at any given situation, it's more than that. It's more like a fucking root system or tree branches. They go this way and that way. And all voices have a factor, and all voices should be, allowed their opportunity to speak up rather than, kill them all or the opposite, opposition.
Yeah, and like I said, it would be. I would love to see that happening. I do get so fucking tired of the false dichotomy thing, and I bring it up all the time. I brought it up at work a number of times with a bunch of different people I talk with, who kind of present this. In certain situations, they'll present the idea of a false dichotomy, and I'm like, but you're missing this and this and this and this, and you've got, you can't give me two options, and say that's it when you know for a fact that on the table are 35 different options of fucking, of whatever the case may be. So
Damien and I were having this exact type conversation. He presents me with two options and says that I must make a decision. Well, if it's me making the decision, I choose a third option. I choose to remove myself from the situation because that is always an option. There are always more than two, even in thought experiments.
Well, yeah, but I would say there's probably a few and a very select, special points in time where sometimes two options is all you actually have.
No, I would disagree. You always have multiple options. Now, some decisions.
Sometimes not making a decision is making a decision. When it's a yes or no answer and ignoring it is going to be taken as a no. Like sometimes removing yourself is not an option. Removing yourself is basically giving an answer, so you might as well answer. So there's situations like that.
And I'm more thinking of like the situation where you're given a choice to do one of two things, or death, where one of them will end up in death no matter what you do. You're kind of fucked, Just saying.
Yeah. But if
so
you might as well try flapping your wings.
Right. All right, so we'll move on to the next one here of. Actually, it is the systematic destruction of Black Lives Matter on Fox and Friends with Tucker Carlson.
Oh, Joe.
Whoa!
A wonderful Fox.
Sorry about that.
Well, Black Lives Matter is seeing
Wow.
green. The activist group now cashing in on tens of millions of dollars from liberal foundations and donors, despite inciting violence with chants like this.
Yeah, that footage is old by now.
Yeah, it is. But hang on, there's one thing that I'm going to point out that he'll say in just a moment here.
That's right, a chant calling for the murder of police officers. Well, the Black-led Movement Fund is a donor campaign aimed at raising $100 million for the group. That's in addition to more than $33 million in grants from top Clinton donor George Soros, whose aim is to destabilize this country. So
you hear that nice little line there that he threw in kind of very quickly?
To destabilize this country.
Yep.
Well, there's a whole bit about Soros, and Fox just goes on the conspiracy end of it.
I don't know anything about the situation in general, so it's just the statement he makes and how quickly he makes it and how fast he moves on.
Soros basically does own Hillary Clinton.
Well, there's no denying that. Back in that to an extreme, it's just not right.
Again, with these, kill the pigs. Those and the predominantly young is what I saw in that group. Those kids, they don't realize, they'll scream this because, for whatever reason, and until they need the police. That's the thing. I don't think that any of those chants come from a position of actual intelligence or observation.
But then when you have those younger people stuck in echo chambers like that are telling them that philosophy, when you have them in those smaller groups getting brainwashed into ideas like that and believing that this is the necessary route, this is what needs to happen, that's when you have those impressionable younger people being driven out to do these types of things.
Briggs, we're all lemmings in some extent. Hell, even me, I fucking got poked and prodded at being here, and this is like my third time. No, I mean, I enjoy it. It turned out to be good, but it could have just as been just equally as likely to have been some far left fucking weirdo shit. You know, I didn't know.
Well,
Hey, well,
it's
I'm going to
nice
turn this guy into a comic. So, and it starts tomorrow. I'm taking him to go see Jill Stein.
Yeah, we're gonna go see some. Hey, be honest. I am required by my political science class to attend 2 events. So I'm doing homework.
It's an excuse for me to get him to grow his Marxist mustache out.
Yeah.
You saw Jill Stein's tweet about nuclear power, correct?
What'd she
Yes.
say? I would like to
And
hear
I
this guy. I've not
agree.
seen this.
I agree, because here on my arm is direct evidence of what happens from nuclear power. That I was outside the day that the radiation fallout from Chernobyl fell over the Midwest of the United States, because the Russians decided not to tell the Americans that their plant had exploded.
Yeah, that was because of poor Russian technology and of the time. The nuclear power nowadays does not have meltdowns like that.
Of course, they don't have
Thing-
meltdowns
thing-
like
thing-
that.
Fukushima?
No, that was a natural disaster. The
Yeah,
point
so
is,
that's different.
nuclear energy is safe right until the moment that it's not.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's,
any system that requires, I keep saying this, and nobody wants to even pay attention to the thought of this, but any system of any kind that requires 100% all-time safety in order for it to be a safe system is not a safe system.
Yeah, I could see that argument. I can understand that argument because if you have to keep it under wraps all the time, it's not safe. You know?
I mean, just from the cesium-137 that's sitting in the area around Chernobyl right now, nobody can live there safely for another 320 years. It'll be it'll be Star Trek time before people could even not have to worry about the cesium being in the food there. That has nothing to do with the other elements that are going to be there for 30,000 years, making it dangerous for people to live there for any length of time.
Yes, but
Minor
but-
aside to that really quick, sorry. Aren't there already people that have moved back into the areas directly around it? Because
Yes,
I've seen
and they
some...
also have an extremely high prevalence of cancers. All right. Now they've gone back and redomed Chernobyl 3 or 4 times. But
They're
the fact
redoing it
is
again right
that
now.
They're not going to remove all of the radiation from the environment for thousands of years unless they literally strip it to the bedrock for 50 miles in a concentric ring around where the plant used to be. The Pripyat needs to be completely taken down to the bedrock. Now, we have alternate energy systems that do not require 100% safety at all times, or else you contaminate the environment for tens of thousands of years. Yes, it's not going to blow up like something out of Terminator 2, but the lasting effects are just as bad as the initial effects.
Yeah.
But those alternate energy sources can't produce anywhere near the sheer amounts
Bullshit.
that nuclear can.
in large
Scotland,
enough...
Scotland just powered their entire nation for 24 hours just with wind, not even including solar. Germany
Scotland
gets
is a
less solar
very
on average-
small country.
Okay, Germany gets less solar on average than anywhere in the continental United States, and they've powered their entire nation off of solar.
Germany is
So-
a relatively small country too.
We're talking
Yeah.
about proportionately.
I was going
they
to say,
use
Briggs,
the-
where's your scaling here? You're not thinking of scaling at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
we also
at
have
least you're not
Arizona.
saying it. You're not showing that.
Well,
But
if
the-
you look at
hold on.
land mass,
There- problem
there's
is-
plenty of other countries that are much, much larger. I mean, you look at the U.S. as just one example. The Hoover Dam doesn't even produce as much electricity as one nuclear
The
power
Hoover
plant.
Dam was designed to scale. The Hoover Dam can only be in one place.
That's what I was going to say.
But that's still
Go-
hydroelectric right
go-
there.
go ahead,
And
Terry.
that is a massive source of power for the West Side, but it still
West
does not
Side?
have the same output as the
Can't do it.
What's the nuclear plant out here?
I don't know. I don't know the
Can't
fucking name
remember
of
its
it. But anyways, go ahead, Terry. What were you going to say?
No, I was saying that all of those examples that you made in other countries, they don't seem to have the same legislation that inhibits here in the United States. In the United States, the energy commissions and all those people that make those rules, who incidentally have a great stock in keeping fossil fuels going, they say that any legitimate energy source for us in the United States must be able to generate like a 24-hour excess.
What you're talking about is the U.S. Energy Authority has a regulation that says that any power plant that's on our grid must have a 24-hour peak demand capability, and any of those systems that are like based on intermittent inputs,
like solar,
or wind, can't be considered primary movers in our environment. So even in those situations in which, say, like in Arizona, New Mexico, where they could reasonably power their entire 24-hour output with stored energy from solar, it's still not legally allowed to be a prime mover. And then the coal and nuclear plants have to run, even without demand, at full online capacity 24 hours a day regardless.
Yeah,
it was written in there for the people who sell coal to coal plants to sell more coal.
Yeah, some of those systems that you're so concerned with, like nuclear energy, could be legitimate alternate means. Like if they weren't required in the United States to run 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, they might be safer than.
Well, we also have thorium reactors, which use molten sodium as an intermediary material for the production of steam power, in which fissile material is never in contact with the turbine material. The Chernobyl problem, all right, and it's been a proven technology, but it's more expensive, and they put all that money into the infrastructure of regular fissile nuclear power for decades. But now we have places like Diablo Canyon and Indian Point, and that one in Florida that's been leaking radioactivity for 12 fucking years now, and they just figured it out in 3 Mile Island, and it comes with too high of a safety bar, all right. What happens with a nuclear accident? There's nuclear waste everywhere. You evacuate towns. You have Blinky the three-eyed fucking fish. What happens during an oil spill?
Screaming fish.
Do you know the only way that alternate power will provide for the entire population is if the population is drastically decreased?
Actually, no.
Which I think needs to happen anyways. Honestly, there needs to be a
I'm sorry, I'm going to call this on you. You're wrong.
Yeah,
with an area of land no
agree.
larger than Harris County, Texas, you can power all of the energy needs of the United States with solar power.
How?
With
What
solar
means?
power.
What
He
mean-
just said it.
No,
Shit.
no.
Calm down.
No, I'm asking what. I'm an electrician. I know about solar power and its energy outputs. I know this very well. I have installed solar. I have worked on the largest mirror solar plant in the Western Hemisphere.
Would that be the one out in
Gila Bend?
Yeah. Okay. So
The Solana power plant. I helped build that. Solar does not have that kind of output. I am telling you.
3 freaking words: solar freaking roadways. The sheer amount of asphalt in the United States. If we fucking implemented some of those plans that the solar
It still would not power the nation.
It would power the nation.
No, it would not.
They would have a surplus in electricity in most states. If all they did was solar powered the parking lots, they would have a surplus.
A 4 square mile patch of land was dedicated to nothing but solar power. It can hardly power a quarter of the state.
You're talking about,
and this is one of the most recently
though.
advanced forms of solar power. With it's the solar mirror power plant. It's the Solana power plant. Go ahead and look it up. It's one of the.
It's pretty cool actually. It's on the way to Prim. It's on the back roads from Amboy.
Yeah, it's
Vegas.
a huge,
fucking awesome.
It's a huge fucking facility, and the solar field is massive.
It is,
and it still hardly produces anything.
Yeah, but okay. So you said that you said that this one power plant
at
4
on a national
miles
scale.
When you look at this power plant on what you said, a 4 mile square area, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How much does it actually power? Like you said, it doesn't power even a quarter of the state. What does it actually power? How much does it actually power? So look that up, and now take a look at how big fucking is that technically in California or is that in Arizona?
No, it's in Arizona. It's in Gila Bend.
Okay, so I just never remember exactly where it's at as far as positioning because I forget where you go through each state. But anyways, so you got 1 4 mile square patch of solar panels, and you're saying that this 1 4 mile square patch powers a quarter or a fifth of the state. 5 of those.
Oh, sorry, it's not that big. It's 552 acres. 2,233,958 square meters.
Okay, but yeah, the question is what is the overall output, and then how much do we use in Arizona?
Generation is 944 gigawatts per hour.
Okay, and then what does Arizona use as far as gigawatts per hour?
Right, it has a total capacity of 280 megawatts gross from 2 140 megawatt gross steam turbine generators, which is enough to power 70,000 homes while avoiding around about 70,000 homes. Not even like a quarter of the state of Arizona is able to be powered by
but look
one of the most advanced power plants we have.
That's fine. But you're talking about one plant in one spot powering a fucking quarter of the state.
No, not even able to, and it's not being used for that.
I'm looking at the staff of the UCL Energy Institute, and they actually fact-checked Elon Musk's look, and they said U.S. electricity consumption is about 425 gigawatts on average. The EIA gives a figure of 3,725,101 megawatt hours of total electricity sales in 2013, i.e. 3,725 terawatt hours a year. That's equivalent to 425 gigawatts. The area shown is 10,000 square kilometers to power the entire United States. Now, what you're going on is the centralized point authority system that we have for electricity distribution in the United States, which requires a centralized energy system. In this situation, you're talking about 10,000 square kilometers of PV at 24% efficiency, which they're scaling up to well past at this point. And that's spread out across the several million square kilometers of the United States. All right, because you would generate electricity close to the point of use to minimize line losses and material losses from infrastructure. You would actually be able to increase the efficiency of the network by making a hybrid energy generation system. Now, you include energy storage systems such as ideas like Elon Musk Powerwall, sodium CSP, things that are able to store thermal or electricity power for later use. You're talking about less area than 2 counties in the state of Texas to power the entire energy needs 24 hours a day of the entire United States for the year. So that idea that it's impossible is wrong. The problem is that in this country we have tens of billions of dollars a year going to oil subsidies for companies that are some of the most profitable corporations on the planet that have not needed any kind of economic subsidies since the 1930s, but they've received them because who do you think pays for the elections? Now, in states like Colorado and Arizona, Peabody Energy and the Koch brothers have actually been trying to get laws passed against homeowners having their own installed solar and penalizing them by additional taxes and fees when they try to sell their generated power locally, their surplus, to the grid.
Yep.
Because it damages the peak production demand of their coal plants. It's a bureaucratic issue, not a technological one. It hasn't been a technological one since the price of PV dropped below $1 per kilowatt, and that was 10 years ago. Right? We've had the technological solution. So when people like Jill Stein talk about the idea of a Green New Deal, we already have more people working in solar than we do in coal. So coal is a dead business. It's a dodo. All right? Now, if we got rid of the oil subsidies and gave them not to crony organizations, because I will give you Solenda, because I know that that name is going to come back up, that Barack Obama's solar fiasco. But if you actually put that into a general energy subsidies for homeowners to install residential area PV and commercial area PV for the roofs of hospitals, the roofs of Walmart, parking lots via solar roadways. In fact, the DOE has a test going on a highway stretch in Idaho right now using solar roadway PV to power an entire community and only using 10 miles of road. We have tens of thousands of miles of road in the United States. A lot of them are at least 4 lanes wide based on the Eisenhower Interstate System. Just the Eisenhower Interstate System surface alone is enough to provide peak solar needs for the entire United States at about 120% production level. So that idea that we need coal or we need fission or we need fucking fusion power or fucking Goku hooked up to a fucking thermostat, all right, is bullshit. It's old school thinking.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not going to let that one slide because science is on my side on that one.
Huh? What's funny is that this conversation had nothing to do with the video we were watching. Just saying.
Of course not. But since we were on the subject.
Indeed. Let's go back and see what the craziness here.
This proves the group is just yet another arm of the Democratic Party. Here to weigh in is the editor-in-chief of the Politistick, Jennifer Burke. Jennifer, it's great to see you this morning. So
great to see you too, Tucker.
I'm not sure how many people have actually read the Black Lives Matter platform, which is not mainstream, to put it mildly. It calls for reparations for slavery, calls for voting for 16-year-olds. It calls for all kinds of things that are way out of the mainstream of American life. I wonder if the donors have read this. Do you think they have?
I actually think they have. I mean, at least for the Ford Foundation, they're all about social justice. And, you know, when you have Cecile Richards
Hence why they
on
make
the Board of
shitty
Trustees
cars.
designating where money goes, which kind of grants go to which people, the woman who is in charge of Planned Parenthood, the largest killer of black children in this country, it's really incredible, and it really makes you wonder what's their end goal, because it's quite hypocritical where their money goes in different places.
I guess what bothers me, I mean, I don't agree with their politics, that's fine. I don't agree with a lot of people's politics, but there is a strain of racial separatism that's really clear when you read their document.
My tinfoil hat
that
politics.
strain is perpetuated by the people like him just as much as these people that he's pointing out. That if that's not the epitome of the pot calling the kettle black, I don't know what is.
You one black-ass motherfucker.
And watch their behavior that is bad for the country. I mean, have we given up on the idea of integration, do you think? It seems that way.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? When you have black students in colleges calling for safe
Asking
spaces,
for safe
and you have
spaces that
black and
whites
white
aren't allowed
students
into.
not going to class, saying that their activism or their classes are getting in the way of their activism. It's really mind-boggling. You know, you had a generation of people that fought.
Their classes are getting in the way of their activism. Maybe if that's the case, you probably just don't want to go to college at all then. That's kind of the point. Like, you have a choice of what you want to do. You either going out and doing and being an activist and all this stuff in whatever time frame they're doing things on, or you do school if they're at the same time and you can't find a way around it. I'm just saying, like, if you're too dumb and you can't choose between your school and your activism, then you're an idiot.
No, that we need to tread carefully, because we're brushing up against another flaw in the overall system here in the United States. Most other countries, they have things in place where you can go to school and enjoy whatever activity you want to in the leisure. That you're not so daunted with debt and fucking so much shit piled on you, so that you can get this piece of paper that you have to get to make a meaningful existence for yourself, to eke out that meaningful existence. Why should we have to sacrifice our civic duties, our civic responsibilities, just so we can keep our nose down and our heads in the book, so we can get a piece of paper? Like that is a problem in and of itself.
Well, yeah, and like I said, what I was basically boiling it down to or alluding to was just that, if for some reason your mindset is you've got the choice of school or activism, just because they happen to fall at the same time frame, that doesn't make it true. Like, you can have your activism and still go to school at the same time. It's just a matter of, like, she's making, like, they're making kind of a delineation that, like, they
They're
have a choice
showing
of
that
school
they consider the activism more important than their class.
Yeah, that's kind of what they're alluding to in this, and that's kind of what I'm getting. Like, if their activism is more important to them, then, just because the rallies are at this time frame when they're, supposed to be in school, well, you have a choice. Do you really want to get your degree done, or do you want to, go and do the protest if it's at the exact same time? That's all I'm saying.
It's not really conflict of schedule. It's more of they're so tired from all their constant activism that they don't have time to do any of the assigned paperwork for their classes.
Yeah, that's fine. That's their stupid bullshit.
Okay, let's play the hypothetical game. Let's
boy.
say our government implemented a policy by which every third baby was murdered. That's a policy that unilaterally we should fucking stand up and be speaking out against. But by the nature of the systems that we have in place in the United States, we are forced to choose between either standing up against these horrible policies or keeping our nose to the grind to complete a degree or work our second and third jobs just to be able to afford rent. that is a fundamental problem and flaw in the system. Like just because you think these people are stupid for choosing their activism over their school education.
I choose
say
nothing.
nay to that. I think that it shouldn't be a choice. You should be able to be afforded enough time to do both. Like your activism, your civic responsibility should not interfere with your higher education, and your higher education should not be so daunting that it interferes with all other aspects of your life. And I don't just mean that for higher education either. You should not have to work 3 jobs just to be able to afford a 1-bedroom fucking apartment where the electricity goes in and out, in and out, in and out, and your landlord can come in and fucking evict you for any given reason at any fucking time. Because at that point, the whole political process is outside or beyond your...
Show me someone who's in that circumstance, because I only work 1 full-time job, and I can afford my own place.
My sister works 3 fucking full-time jobs to be able to make ends meet. My fucking niece and nephew work 3 full-time jobs. I've had to work 3 and 4 full-time jobs. It exists here in the United States.
Because some people can't get decent jobs.
How little were you getting? I look like shit on paper. No, trust me, my job history is utter shit. I'm still able to make $13.91 an hour.
Yeah. Not everyone gets jobs being an electrician because not everyone's intelligent enough to be able to do it. I wouldn't trust half the people out here to be able to plug a light switch in without blowing themselves up.
You know what?
Because you know what? Because I have to deal with it every day from my fucking work.
Pipe fitters get paid more than I do, and they don't have to do anywhere near as smart as shit. You can be dumb as fuck and be a pipe fitter.
Right, but here's the thing. Even if everybody was super intelligent, and everybody had a 4-year degree, still needs...
I don't have a degree in shit. I don't have a degree in anything. I am completely unskilled in the workplace, basically, and I still have...
Let him finish his thought.
Make plenty more than
Let him finish his thought.
Wage.
No, I was finished with my thought, but he misheard me.
No.
It's like anybody that has to be working 3 minimum wage jobs needs to be looking for jobs that aren't fucking minimum wage, because they do exist, they are out there, they can be found. And guess what? Only 28% of the jobs in the U.S. require a 4-year degree.
I've had to live that fucking life.
Those jobs that you say they should be going out and search for often have some extraneous training requirement for which the bill is pushed on them. Those opportunities aren't readily available to those people because the system is set up in such a way to prevent them.
And you also have the situation in which most of the jobs that have been added since the 2008 recovery have been part-time jobs, and employers, rather than scaling up more minimum wage jobs, they've been scaling back the hours of their higher wage jobs from a full-time to a part-time wage. So to make up that difference, people have to get a second job. And more often than not, they're not going to land a second medium to middle wage job. They're going to land a part-time or a full-time minimum wage job.
And then let's add in another factor to this. A lot of these people attempted to pursue higher education and were met with daunting life debt, crushing debt to add that on. And then you add in the predatory nature of all these fucking lending societies out there that are more than willing to step in your time of need. Like me, like for example, I was faced with a situation.
It was their choice to accrue that debt.
From Okinawa to the United States, to Jacksonville, Florida. And because some bureaucratic bullshit of a paperwork, I was going to be put in a situation that I had to pay for that all on my own. Cost me $2,000 one way for a trip. And then on top of that, I needed a way of riding around while I was in Jacksonville, Florida, because my mother needed someone to take her to and from her damn doctor's appointment, so I had to rent a car. So in that situation, I needed help. And who was there? The fucking Pioneer Lending Company, who gave me 39% interest on $3,000 so that I could fucking do. And I'm still paying that off 7 years fucking later. I will pay more in interest than the principal of the loan. And those places do exist, and they set up these situations in which you will never be able to get out from under. And that's the situation. So with those type of scenarios set up, of course I'm going to be, it puts me in a situation where I have to choose between my civic responsibilities and the other responsibilities in my life. It's like putting people in a situation where they have to choose between shelter or food, and those are not choices that should ever be.
That is a drastic straw man inequality right there. Equating those two things is just way over the top.
How so?
Equating a higher education from college and protesting something are just as necessary as shelter and food. I'm sorry, no. You can't equate those two in any way, shape, or form. No, you can't.
Responsibility is just as important as any of
people
the,
live perfectly good lives without any college education whatsoever, and people live perfectly good lives without any activism whatsoever. It is not a necessity to their life. It cannot be equated to shelter and food.
Until such a point when it does become that problem. We're one fucking asshole away from being in the right position that causes problems for all of us. And then if you don't speak up,
we're
then
always that. That's human
you're still gonna be
society.
affected.
Welcome to it. Human society is always one asshole away from terrible disaster at all times. You will never change that. I will never
you know
change
what stops that? People speaking up and stopping it.
No, because there's always going to be the asshole that shuts them down.
So did we just not try? Do we just not do anything?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that when you have the choice, if you honestly feel that the activism is more important than your schooling, then don't do the schooling. If you honestly feel that your schooling is more important than your activism, then work on the schooling. Guess what? Neither of them are necessary to survive.
Okay, well here I'm gonna point out just a quick aside on this. All right, that in the nation of Slovenia, when they were going to go from a system where college tuition was paid to a place where they were going to be charging tuition rates, the students in their school system got together and overthrew their government through activism. So, in that, they both focused on their school and on their activism.
So it's possible. These people just care more about one than the other.
That's what
they want to
have
sacrifice
I been saying
the other.
This wrong the whole time? Because I'm pretty sure that's what I fucking said, right?
They want to sacrifice one because they think the other is more important.
No, I never said. I'm saying that you should never be in a situation where you have to choose one or the other. You should be able to conduct both.
They are able to do both. Just they aren't able to do the other one to the extent that they want to do because they want to spend all of their time being activists, but they don't want to spend any time studying, but they still expect the degree out of it.
I will say this, being in my master's classes, yes, there are times where that is a thought that, like, I would rather be doing anything else and still be able to get this shit done, but not have to do any of the fucking work for it. I understand where he's coming from. Trust me, I get that fucking side of it, but it's they're creating their own fucking internal dilemma here, and we're bitching about it at each other. I think we're all kind of on a similar page here. Am I wrong?
You're not really wrong.
All right, then we can move on then, right?
There are instances where priorities need to be shifted. I can see where you're coming from, Briggs. However, when these problems exist at some of the most basic and fundamental levels, that's where I take an instance. You should not, as an undergraduate, as a freshman in fucking college, be in a position where you have to choose one or the other. You should be able to have enough time to do both. Like, if you're going for a master's
I guarantee these people do have enough time to do both. Just because they're saying they don't doesn't mean that they don't.
I don't have enough time to be able to do
These are a bunch of whiny little SJW college kids who have been taking social justice courses for half of their degree, and they believe that activism is more important than their classes. They don't want to spend any time on classes. They don't want to divide equal time.
Sure, there's
because they are able to do that. They are able to do that right now.
There's that generalization again.
There are plenty of people in college who are able to have perfectly extracurricular activities and be fully involved with them while still taking their classes.
That's an extracurricular
There's plenty
activity.
of people. For some reason, these people can't manage the two. Obviously, they're trying to spend too much time on one of them.
I don't think it's so obvious, but yes, it's possible.
I still think that would be too much of a broad generalization, though.
They aren't being forced to choose.
Well, again, there are those people who
that's the bottom line.
Have those same those financial problems where they're there on grants and scholarships, and they're working a full-time job and doing a school load, and then when something directly adverse to them is presented to them, that in those situations, where something's got to give. You can't get blood from a rock. So if you have 3 hours to sleep a day between school and work and home and everything else that you need to do, where do you put the activism? And there is no balance at that point. And what Thierry is saying is correct for some cases, and for some cases you are correct that you have daddy's spoiled rich kid who's never known privation, who thinks that they're trying to save the world from a college campus. There are both those situations can exist simultaneously in the same universe. But to broadly paint,
guess which one's the majority?
One extreme or the other as a whole is I think unfair to those members of either group.
And I don't know if you're 100% right on that one either, Briggs, because I think that the people that we normally hear about, and especially the ones that we talk about on here, tend to be a very vocal minority versus the majority of the group, and you've even agreed to that before. So, I mean, just the generalizations. That's all.
Times, but if you look at the majority of college campuses nationwide, worldwide, even some places in UK particularly, but yeah, it's.
Well, whatever.
Anyway,
we get back to, or do we even care at this point? I think we fucking milked this teat to death.
No, I'm not saying that your ideas and thoughts are invalid, Briggs. I'm just saying that we brushed up against what I feel to be a flaw in the system here in the United States. That the fact remains that in other countries that flaw does not exist. In France and
I'm saying it doesn't exist here either. These people are inventing that problem and claiming that it is real. I guarantee these people have plenty of time for activism and plenty of time for studies. They don't want to spend it that way.
How can you make that guarantee? You can't. Not without knowing each and every one of those.
How can you guarantee that it's not that?
We're not gonna play that.
We're on same level of proof here. I can prove just as much that it is that you can prove it isn't.
We're not going to play that back and forth right now. That's totally. We're not going to go there.
Neither of us can read their minds, so it's only speculation. But in my opinion, from what I have observed from my studies into things like this, is the majority of these people are usually those, from what I've noticed, those middle-class spoiled kids that want to solve everybody else's problems for them.
Problems that we didn't ask them to solve.
From my perspective and what I know in my own experience and with the experience of those within my life that I have met, I would say that the opposite is true. I've seen people in situations by which the policies being enacted by their local government and their state government directly and adversely affect them, yet they are in situations in which they have absolutely no time to speak their voice. And here in the United States especially, we should be the bastions of the democracy. We should be priding ourselves in the fact that everyone is able to speak their voice and have their voice heard. It doesn't happen for those people, in my experience.
Can I take one quick thing here? Is that in that situation where David's talking about, that I think if the system were more democratized in the way in which more voices could be raised, we would be spending less time talking about those people that you find objectionable, Briggs.
Yeah.
That they would be drowned out by a much larger body of voices.
Very well could be, but let's go ahead and move on. Get away from this. Let's go to something really fucking crazy.
It's okay. I love you, Briggs.
Hey man, this is why the show. This is why we kind of worked on designing the show the way it is. Everyone has the right to say whatever the fuck they want. We can be as angry at each other as we want to, as long as when we're done with this, we're back to being, buddies, compadres, friends, butt lovers. I don't really care. We'll go on it from there.
This is me sober. I've yet to enjoy the.
We haven't mentioned tits yet.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I know. We're fucking an hour and a half into this thing?
Yep.
We just started talking about tits? Really?
Fucking tits, man.
We failed. You know what's funny? We're an hour and a half into this, and I've only gone through 3 of the 10 or 11 videos I've got. That's okay. That's why I love this show.
Let's move on to a fucking video.
Let's move on to a funny.
Look at this chick's saggy ass fucking tits. They're down near her fucking belly button.
Let's just roll the next one on fast forward.
Oh man, I don't know if I can handle that. We're going off of Gail Cord Schuler, Jesuit space fleet destroyed in deep space. brain-to-brain communication with Brent Spiner.
Oh my God, her at 1.3x
Hello, this is
would be
Gabriel
amazing.
Chana Fox News correspondent Gail Cord-Schuler, and I'm starting to.
Okay, give me a second. Let me move this so I can
reports right now because we had something
speed
major
her
that
up a little
happened,
bit.
on August 25th. So I'm just go ahead and read you my August 25th,
Failing,
I gotta
man.
change
I don't know
it.
how to do it. I've never done it before.
2016 brain-to-brain interview with Brent Spiner about the total destruction of the Jesuit and UFO space fleet in deep
The
space.
Jesuit and UFO
But I
space
told
fleet.
Brent, looks like we've had a major military victory with the Jesuit order due to my
Here we go.
Major
Faster.
military
and their
victory with the
entire
Jesuit
space
order.
fleet is gone and all their military and soldiers destroyed, which
Oh,
may explain
not fast
why
enough yet.
God sent the Rome earthquake with, I hear, like 1,000 aftershocks. But the Roman Catholic is creating a new Jesuit order to replace
There we
the old
go.
one. Until all this falls into place, I'll stop reporting news until I can be sure I'm reporting accurately. I will get back to work on my book, Jesuit Empire's Secret History. Looks like the next phase in our battle against the Jesuit order will be political. My news site is still up, but Brent and I are waiting to see how the Catholic Church will respond to the destruction of the entire Jesuit military arsenal, which happened, I believe it was August 24th.
Oh my
amazing.
God, Gail is amazing.
The
She
entire
is my
Jesuit
soul animal, or my
military
spirit
space
animal.
fleet has been destroyed.
Gail
And the
Gail
Rome
Kortschuler is.
earthquakes was because she didn't shield them.
Yeah, hey man, it's all Zach Knight's fault. That fucking smarmy cunt.
All the current Jesuits died as the Gale Shield caused their super Nukaki that they sent to the Earth.
New cocky. Okay, so
The
Super
Gale
Bukaki.
Shield.
no, it's yes, it is. It's bukkake, but on a nuclear scale.
New cock.
I'm not even joking.
Super Saiyan level 1? or
I'm gonna
Super
nuke
Saiyan-
all over your face.
Does this mean that we won't be hearing from her for a while because her enemy's dead or whatever? I'm kind of disappointed.
No, man, Zach Knight is still alive. He is unkillable, so he's still a problem. So she still has to make sure that.
Didn't
she
you
speaks
know
out
the
on-
Jesuits are vampiric creatures?
Oh my God, I should find the fucking the
We
story.
should give them all dildos, and then they could beat each other to death with them. Problem solved.
Rock on. You know what, Terry? I'm gonna have to find the video that the very first one we ever played of Gale's, about.
I'll look back through there, and if you can give me the name of the video, I'll sit down and throw it up on the TV.
Check out the book
before the next show.
I have to. Yeah, I'll
just
find it
off
again.
to the left of her.
She has a book.
No, yeah, she has multiple books, but that's besides the point. The one we're talking about is the one that's behind her shoulder to the right. Well, her right.
The big red one with the swastika on it.
Oh, yeah. No, the one where she paraphrases a paraphrase of a Nazi. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you actually have to read those books inside of both a Faraday cage and an entire cocoon of aluminum foil.
Something like
Otherwise,
that.
it's like that In the Mouth of Madness movie.
Right.
Like the
Yeah,
book makes
I
you
was gonna
insane.
point that out. Yeah, that's her
Destroyed
book.
Their entire fleet. From what I understand, they also destroyed the UFOs.
That's not her book. She didn't write that one.
And the
Oh,
only
her
Jesuit
whole book,
alive
yeah.
from this battle is Zach Knight, who cannot be killed because he's the Antichrist, and he's floating inside this ocean in deep space, which got so filled with Jesuit seamen from the Ricochet that it drowned the entire Jesuit space fleet and destroyed all the UFO space fleet. Zach
We can't hear anything. Terry, what?
All that semen.
Fucking crazy.
She is.
She's dead
Yes, she
serious
is.
too, man. She's dead
You gotta-
serious,
I'm moving
man.
it
It's
so I
not
turn
even
the
a
volume
joke.
up. So you can't just like.
No, because it is like. Oh my God.
Black Knight and the UFO fallen angels, those are Satan's fallen angels, are all floating inside the now Jesuit seaman ocean in deep space inside bubbles. All the other Jesuits out in deep space died. That's what I heard from Brain Communications. Zach Knight and the UFO aliens or fallen angels are alive, but they are each trapped inside a bubble and cannot escape from their bubble inside the seaman ocean. In the Bible, in Genesis 1, it talks about waters above the waters. There are waters, there's an ocean in deep space, and it's Satan's ocean. In the book of Job, it talks about Leviathan swimming in that ocean. And that's the waters of
Terry's over there melting.
They
This is
can't
awesome.
get out. This guy's immortal, but he can't doggy paddle.
Apparently not. Apparently,
Well, I guess
he's like,
it's kind of hard backstroking semen.
Just by virtue of the sheer amount of semen it would take for this super bukkake to create oceans of semen, it would seem that this night guy is
Not oceans, just one ocean.
giant,
There's
which
only
makes me
one
kinda
ocean of
jealous.
semen.
this is like some hyper phallic fetishist like fucking wet dream.
An oceanic dream.
And I'm the one doing
So
drugs.
somewhere out there in deep space.
So am I. What's your point?
Godfather's throne is
Drugs are bad,
a
boy.
huge ocean
Drugs are bad,
in
okay,
space,
boys.
And Satan swims in there a lot. And he actually had the Jesuit space fleet in that ocean to protect them from the Gale Shield. But the Jesuits, in an attempt to destroy me and my Gale Shield, kept sending super Nukakis. They sent one first to Central Florida. And we had to evacuate Central Florida.
Cough
and,
up
They
that
sent a
demon.
Nukaki
Super Nukaki
to
was designed
Central
to be
Florida.
attracted to human DNA. So when it came to Earth and there was no human DNA, the Gale Shield caused it to ricochet back into deep space. And that time, the Jesuit space fleet was able to escape to another part of the ocean and avoid the ricochet. And then they tried another one over all of Florida. And at this point, my men realized that by putting a shield around every human being that had my Catherine the Great, King David genetic profile, that it would cause the Gale Shield would be able to ricochet.
God, Tim, shut up. You're just a little loud. Jesus. Holy fuck. Just as bad. Gail's just fucking a spaz, man.
So, Carrie wants to know if she's single. I think there might be an opportunity here.
Fuck you, asshole. No, I just want to believe that she's never going to reproduce. Because
Yeah,
would
I think.
What if she already has?
I don't think she has. I'm pretty sure she hasn't actually.
Yeah, if she's swimming around in Super Bukkake and hasn't gotten pregnant yet, then
I mean, her
the
face
Gale
looks
Shield
kind
must
of.
be a
No,
diaphragm.
no. Apparently, the Super Bukkake is the weapon of the enemy.
Right, but she still could have got knocked up. She's swimming around. in it with
Yeah,
the Gale Shield.
it did come up against her Gale Shield.
Which might be a euphemism for her diaphragm.
Her Gale Shield has
I just
been
had great- yeah.
covered
Oh my
in
God.
Jesuit semen.
No,
Holy
I just
shit.
had a phenomenal idea. Everyone that seems to proclaim that they are, bastions of logic and reason, which means, in this case, everyone but fucking her, that's male, should
Butt
ejaculate
fucking.
into a jar and
Mm.
send them to her so that she,
no, because that would be considered a felony, a sexual
Yeah,
assault.
that's. No.
You're also forgetting the fact that it would just immediately be launched by use of the Gale Shield back into space.
Yeah, you can only ejaculate under a Gale Shield if it's outside of the planet's atmosphere, or else it would be considered a biological attack.
But maybe
Yeah.
if
Your
we.
premise is flawed.
Fucking wants this, David.
Your premise is bad, and you should feel bad.
Besides, only Jesuit semen would
Only to-
be
And I think I'm the
harmful.
closest one here. So,
to the origination point.
You know what? I think I'm
So
okay.
that failed. So then the Jesuits were racing against time because they knew that we were putting this shield around every human being with my genetic profile in it, and they launched. And we were able to get a shield around everybody that had my genetic profile. But nevertheless, the Jesuits were desperate, and they tried to, this time to annihilate every human being on Earth. And they figured since all the Jesuits were in that space fleet,
So I have a feeling that like that was what the fucking July 29th like end of the world was. It was supposed to be the Jesuits hitting us with a Nukake bomb.
a Bukkake bomb.
Nukake bomb, as in like the nuclear version of a Bukkake bomb.
Oh, new cocky. Gotcha.
Nukake, yes.
Better than the old cocky.
Fuck you.
and
right.
I guess they were even willing to kill their own Roman Catholic people to do this, and that's Jesuits are famous for this. They're the biggest murderers on the planet. So they tried to do that, but because my men were able to put this shield around everybody that had my genetic
Men.
profile,
She-
the super
she
Nukaki,
controls
and everybody
men
after
now.
this on
It's
commands
the
them.
higher members of the Church of Gale. Those are her men.
satellite camera, and they're reporting it on the Gabriel Chana Fox News Channel and showing the footage. It was a huge Nukaki. It came down to Earth, and because it was so huge, and because every human being had my genetic
Huge
profile
cum
around them,
ball.
it ricocheted back into the wormhole that launched it back to deep space.
Because no
and it wiped
semen
out the entire
could ever
UFO
penetrate her.
The Jesuits started
A
collaborating with the
wormhole
UFOs
filled with
to try to fight my
Bukkake.
Gale Shield, and then wiped out all the UFO space fleet, and it wiped out the Jesuit space fleet, and I believe killed every Jesuit out there except for Zach Knight. Okay, so that's kind of like. And if you go to my news site, I have links that go into more detail about that. I also have.
Her news site. She has a
Sorry,
news
spoke
site.
down.
Why have we not visited her news site?
I don't know. Maybe that's something we should do next time, and we'll just
You
read
need to
from it.
Establish a dialogue, like communication needs to be. Going
Yes,
back.
we need to
No,
make
see the-
contact with
Yes.
Gail.
But we need like 4 Guido Sarducci masks and some like priest costumes so that we could be like, we're the Jesuits, Council of Overlords.
Oh.
Yes.
I'm just gonna be there with my camera, just like click, taking
That
photos.
right there. Now you see, that would be all right. Nothing illegal about that.
See, exactly.
Yeah,
You're just going to be
that's
like,
better.
we
Sorry, I go
have
too
figured
far.
out a way of deflecting your shield to allow the Bukkake to rain upon you.
We shall release our new cocky all over the earth.
God damn it!
And whenever she starts talking, Mr. Random has to go, silence!
I kill you. Oh god damn. Okay, you know what? I'm
We're
gonna let
we're
I'm gonna
doing
let
this
Briggs-
episode 13, man. We're recording this shit. You got that?
We should start out small with emails. Like, just start emails. You know, you have foiled our first attempts at the Bukkake, but rest assured, we have calibrated our forces, and our second attempt will be successful. You will not foil us forever. Arg!
No, because see, the weird thing is she's oddly coherent enough to realize that when people send emails and stuff like that to her, that it's not real. She actually understands that it's not actually the Jesuits doing it. It's someone joking. It's someone fucking trolling her.
Because
So
all of the communication only
it's all
happens
brain to
between
brain.
brain
It's
to
all
brain.
fucking brain to brain. It has nothing to do with verbal communication.
If
with
she
written
doesn't hear it in her
communication, brain
head,
to brain.
it's a joke. It's making fun of her. It's not real. Onward,
I've got
onward.
the answer to that. All you have to do is log into an email server directly using Telnet, and you can send a headerless email with no send information. So it'll look like a blank headerless email suddenly appeared in her box.
I'm
So, you
sure
know,
someone's probably done that at some
Sorry,
point.
what?
I'm sure someone's probably done that at some point.
well, I don't know, maybe not specifically to her, though. And that's the idea is that, look, I could only say this to you over electronic means because they might be hearing me because they're listening to all our brain-to-brain communications. This is the only safe way to tell you they're coming. And then, see? Started out that way. You got to work within the limits of her psychosis.
Yeah.
And you know what? If
Play
it
into it.
fails, oh well. Our entertainment value is none the worse. But if
Very
it
true.
succeeds, if it succeeds, oh my, how far could we go with it?
I think we could make a career out of it, quite honestly. How long do you think she's got left before she
Ding
dies?
the Jesuits.
Decades? The great Jesuit Bukkake War of 2137. You know. Honestly, all we have to do is splice in clips of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, the robot guy, thousands of years ago. You know, it could work.
God.
We get a bunch of sequins of varying colors, put it up on a black sheet behind us for any video. That way, it looks kind of alien spacecrafty, and problem solved. She'll think she'll be outlining these video clips that we send her.
Oh, you know what? No. If we're going to work within the limits of her psychosis, we can't actually talk directly to her in the videos. We just have to make reference to her to how we're denying all of her plans, saying, we actually won that space battle. Don't let her lie, you know? And then just leave links on our Facebook page.
I think we lost everyone.
You guys still there, fellas?
I am. Allison just got back.
There we go.
Sorry, remember we couldn't see the screen cap from the way the screen's presented to us, so all I could see was your arm, Briggs.
Oh, you can't see me.
Wait, what happened? What'd I do?
I don't know. Fuck you.
It's actually from when the United States produces this crazy, so I can never live there.
I don't know. We'll have to find that one out.
See, she's got her little Nazi book behind her.
Yeah, I see that. Shouldn't that have landed her on some kind of fucking watch list?
No.
A link. This is kind of getting off the subject, but as you know, in the mainstream media, we've got a big very contentious presidential election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And
Here we go.
the main argument that
Political.
Hillary's been using against Donald, she's calling him a racist. And Donald is, and she says, why don't you show your tax returns, Donald? I actually had an interview with Donald explaining why he has not been revealing his tax returns, and it's because the Jesuits actually infiltrated his business and caused him to go into debt. And they also switched out. You have to go see the interview. They switched out his legitimate tax return with a Jesuit version, and they used Jesuit clones inside his business to try to bring him down. And I have a link at my news site about that. So let's get back to this Ricochet. So all the
No, we're
Let's
not
get
going to
back to
get back
this
the
ricocheting semen.
Like, you've re-said this scene twice already. We're not going to listen.
She
a
really
third
wants
time.
to drive that aspect home. She wants you to have this mental image of her Gale shield around you, protecting you, while this giant mass of semen bounces off of it and flies back into space to destroy the Jesuit fleet.
Victim of a bukkake as a child.
I think that Gale is just probably the craziest person that is not like dangerous that I've ever seen.
No, I think she was the biscuit in the Jesuit circle jerk when she was a small child, and she now just has traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, she's definitely
Oh
got
my
like some
God.
deep-seated trauma
Yeah.
when it
Something.
comes to Jesuits.
Just coated her down in just a giant bomb of jizz. That was the foundation of her whole life.
All right. So let's move on then. So let's jump into. Actually, it's Terry. Let's briefly visit the video that you gave us. You know, that from last time, since you weren't here, I said we were gonna touch back up on this. So.
When I use the term transanity, I'm talking about what is being imposed on our culture. I'm
He's
talking
fed up
about
too.
turning the world upside down to accommodate the struggles of a precious few people. I care about the few people who are struggling, but as I've said over and over again, we don't turn the world upside down and exchange perception for reality just because a few people are struggling. And when God laid it on my heart over 11 years ago to begin to address the issues of LGBT activism, there were two major issues, two major reasons why. One was that this was a very real threat to our freedom of religion, speech, and conscience. Well, we see that unfolding on a regular basis, not just in America, but in other nations. The other reason was this was going to affect our children and families directly. And people...
It's really hard to kind of take him seriously when it's sped up like that.
Okay. I understand. I'll slow him back down to a normal speed.
It's like a 20-minute video.
Well, we don't have to hit the whole thing. I'm sure you had some kind of pick points in there.
Basically,
I'm not hearing you guys as loud anymore either.
he does not feel that the plight of the transgender community in that, you know, when it comes to singular non-gender static pronouns is a problem that affects the very few being forced upon the majority to such an extent that it is falsely being attempted. It's making an attempt to alter the very fundamental principles of our language, and he takes offense to that. Am I in the ballpark there?
Yeah, I mean, because you're talking more about his mention of like the other weird pronouns, the she, the z, the fucking x, y, suck my ass. No, I don't believe in those fucking
A
stupid
single
pronouns.
person wanting to be called they, them.
That was my biggest criticism of, well, I wouldn't call it criticism. That was the only thing for which I felt somewhat supportive of his argument was that when that long list gets to such an extent that it becomes less convenient than to just call the individual by their name, then you have a problem. And the other side of the argument where I feel is something that should be addressed is that all of these issues, personal pronouns, how to address a transgender person, all of these things should not be addressed at the elementary and lower levels. That those are discussions for which parents should be having with their children. Now, and from the videos that he showcases in his, it seems like the entire school district was forcing these changes upon all levels, from the lower tier, the lower elementary school on up to the high school. Now, I'm fine having these conversations at the high school levels, but when you talk about at the elementary school, in which parents may or may not be at a position to talk to their children about it yet, then you shouldn't enact policies to force them to.
Okay, yeah, and you know, from remembering most of what I just heard from you, I would agree with a lot of it. Yeah, there's no reason for like elementary level kids and lower to have to like really, you know, think about or I mean, obviously anyone's going to think about what they want to think about, but forcing some of this stuff on these young kids is not a I would call it not productive in trying to make the transgender people accepted, I would say. As far as the multitude of other pronouns and shit, well, no, it's stupid. It's completely ridiculous. I would side with this guy on that one. And I'm very much against a lot of what he said because I've seen a few of his other videos.
Well, yeah, but you know, in opposition of him, the singular the singular gender fluid pronouns have existed within the English language for as long as there's been a written word. I mean, Shakespeare used it in the Comedy of Errors. Orwell used it. Chaucer used it. It's something for which there is already an established precedent, and it didn't really become an issue not to use a gender fluid pronoun until certain policies were enacted earlier in United States history, in which you.
I could agree that there's an age-appropriate time frame for gender pronouns, but a general awareness that some people's bodies don't match their minds in the way they feel inside is an awareness the same way that you have to teach every little boy and every little girl that there are boys and girls. Well, there's boys and girls, and there's other. You know, you don't have to get into too fine a detail with it, but if somebody is transgender or shows those traits at a younger age, then they should be aware that those people exist.
Well, and I definitely think that there is an age at which even the idea or even the ability to acknowledge that awareness has.
Well, we talked on that last time when you were here, so.
No,
And
well,
are you still there?
no, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I mean,
Just silent.
I appreciate y'all revisiting the video, but you don't have to do that on my account. I just found it interesting, and I hope that you got some good discussion out of it.
I think we did last time as well, but like I said, I figured the reason that you had brought it up was you had something in it that seemed to have some sort of a, maybe a valuable point that you wanted to make, or something you just wanted to comment on. In which case, you have, so it's fine. We can move on right now if we want to. It doesn't really matter,
Do you have something else prepared to move on from? You know, I don't want to be guilty of beating the dead horse. You know.
You're not going to be, trust me. It's my show. That's why I run it the way I do. All right, then. Well, fine. We'll move on to Wild Bill for America. Bad people.
Again. Wild Bill.
That those who practice such things.
Whoop, sorry about that. And to turn the volume down, and holy shit.
When the laws of men violate the laws of God, our duty is clear. We must obey God rather than men. Hello, everybody. Wild Bill for America here, and today in the USA, immoral laws are being passed that Christians cannot obey. Sexual immorality is at the top of the list. The Democrats have embraced the filthiest sexual practices and elevated them to the level of a new religion. Vice President Joe Biden recently declared that gay rights trump religious rights.
I've never heard the statement that, gay rights trump religious rights. Of course, I don't pay much attention to these people.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. When did Vice President Biden say that? I'm pretty sure it would have been plastered all over CNN or Fox News or something like that if he had mentioned anything to that nature.
Yeah, because that's a very like hard stance to take.
Yeah.
I think what you're hearing is a bigoted, stupid conclusion about the pushback that the progressive wing of politics has done towards bills like HB2. And he's conflating that idea with somehow the government standing in between them and their religious liberties in defense of other people's civil rights, which they find abhorrent because of the nature of the way they view homosexual behavior. That's all he's really doing, but it's like the most dickish possible way to say it. But the fact that that's really what he's getting to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Just,
He's confusing his sensitivities with his rights.
Exactly. He thinks people fucking each other in the ass is ew. So he has to come up with something.
It's more than ew. It's like the worst, most devilish thing you can do because God said that sodomy is fucking wrong. Don't stick penises in your butt.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Terry. I know you don't. I know that it kind of pisses you off when I do that stuff, but it's these people are taking these things to the most extreme.
What if a heterosexual man and his woman? What if she decides to want it in the butt?
What were you saying, Terry?
No, all I'm saying, yeah, it's minorly annoying when you make those mocking comments, but that's you. I would never ask you to stop that. Same way I would never ask Damien to stop being a dick. But
See, that's why we work so well together. He's one. I tend to like him.
yeah, what bothers me is that again, one of the lowest common denominators within the Christian faith, or fellow Christian, I might say, speaking as if a sin is so severe that it would cause a person to be damned and condemned for all eternity. Because within the very book that he proclaims to be preaching from, it states emphatically that we are all fucking sinners, and that if we choose to acknowledge and accept Jesus Christ and treat others as we would have them treat us, then we are saved through grace, not because we chose to follow every fucking little everything within the Old Testament, not because we feel that more connected emotionally to a man rather than a woman. None of that matters. What matters is our acceptance of him and our ability to treat each other not in a douchey manner. And that message seems to be fucking forgotten.
It is. And see, here's the thing. This is why I like having you on here, Terry, especially because in cases like this, you're very well thought out when it comes to issues like this. Now, we joke about these things. I do, especially having come from it and fallen away from it, you know. But I may joke about this kind of stuff, but when it comes down to it, your version of how you believe and how you practice your own religion, to me, is 100% fine. I'm not even going to be the type of person to say, hey, it's kind of like the flying, you know, the invisible fucking anus monster, you know, and the shit piranhas. I'm not putting it on that level. It's, for you, this is something that I've come to kind of, you know, maybe just personally believe this in some way. But if your religious beliefs are just something that makes you, one, a better person and do better for not just yourself but the rest of humanity throughout your time on this earth, then your religion means nothing to me. It just means that you have something that drives you to do better than what you think you would do without it. And that is 100% motherfucking fine. I support you in it, and I will stand right next to you should someone say you're not allowed to. But until then, until that time where I'm standing next to you, I'm still going to rip on everyone else around you for saying things that, you know, in some small way may tangentially relate to your religious beliefs. But I'm just going to rip on these guys because they're being the outspoken vocal minority of retards who have never cracked the book more than about 5 minutes in church on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Or they just sing the hymns.
The majority of what they know about the Bible is what's quoted to them from the fucking pulpit.
Yes, and
well, now we have Google, that, you know, all you have to do is type in what does the Bible say about dildos, for example, and right there.
The Gutenberg Bible is considered the de facto reference standard for all new transmission technologies or data storage technologies. Mm-hmm. Literally the very first thing that has been stored on every hard drive and every floppy disk design that we've ever had has been the Gutenberg Bible. They just created this new crystalline wafer data storage method. The first thing they put on was the Gutenberg Bible. So for what now, 30 to 40 years, there's been absolutely no...
Longer than that. The first book bound was
no. He's talking about the technology portion of it. He's not talking about the
accessible version of it's been around for some 4 decades now. But that's the thing, is that the type of Christianity that you're talking about, Terry, is the type of Christianity that it was taught to me as a child. I grew up Catholic, very Irish Catholic, and that idea that everybody
blew up her fucking cut.
But in the meantime, you use compassion. That your faith should be based in compassion for your fellow man. That's the type of Christianity that I heard as a child, but have ever rarely seen put into real practice by people. All right,
yeah.
And I know people, it's an impossibly high standard, but there are some people that seem almost antagonistic to that version of what view of the faith.
Yeah.
And people like him, this guy here, they're not like you,
Oh,
and
no.
I don't place you in the same category.
I'm
As
sure,
militant
I'm
as
sure
I
if
am.
he and I were in a room together having a conversation that
He'd say you're a heathen.
that I am a heathen and a false prophet. Somehow I have Satan's dildo firmly implanted up my ass,
Yep.
and that I need to be silenced.
You only have the illusion of God. You
I
don't
don't
know
think
the
I
real God.
of Christianity any more than he does.
I'm not saying a version. I'm saying a view, a world.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the idea that it's I don't think of it as a version. I think of it from a point of not only faith, but from logic. I have read the Bible, the cover, and I have found very clearly where the Bible transitions from Old Testament to New Testament and what the Bible says about that transition, which it says, hey, everything before here is good for reference, but I fulfilled it, and you need not concern yourself with it as long as you do A and B and treat each other like, human beings.
The dude abides.
Yes.
The
Exactly.
dude abides.
Abides.
By the by, speaking of
visit dudism.com for anybody actually watching.
Ordained minister. But
Same here.
have been since the
Spe-
inception of the Church of the Dude. All right?
Speaking of which, though, very soon, Briggs.
What?
November 13th, we've got to do. Tim and I having our anniversary.
Oh.
First year anniversary. So definitely going to do we have to do a small ceremony at the bowling alley, and one of you guys gets to be the officiator.
Nice.
You're gonna toss around some balls and hit some pins.
Hey man, I'm fine with this.
We're gonna throw some balls and we're gonna down some oat sodas. And we're gonna celebrate these two men getting hitched. Well, man and woman. A man and Fuda.
Yeah, there we go.
Man and Fuda. There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was too perfectly timed. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Oh my God.
So how else is Mr. Wild Bill gonna call us heathens?
Sorry, Joe, you have no authority to trample on the Word of God, especially in the United States of America, where the Founding Fathers enshrined religious freedom and freedom of speech as the #1 most important freedoms in this
Yeah,
nation.
but they did not specify Christianity as the only religion that had that.
I'm doing it as hard as I can.
No, I find it funny that he feels the need
I
to.
don't want you guys to feel I'm directing that at you or the audience. I'm directing that at him, so I'm trying to aim myself.
So I feel it funny that he feels the need to quantify, especially here in the United States, as if the United States has a lock linchpin on Christianity, and all other countries in the world are just
America!
The Jesuits waiting to
Fucking America! No, you're wrong. Fucking America.
Okay, no. This guy is the type of American that that seriously has fantasies of the first flag being made by Betsy Ross was literally made out of Jesus's foreskin. All right, that's what they think America means.
Oh God.
They
fucking great.
they don't
American.
understand the separation of
Microphone's
church
off, brother.
and state. They look at them as interwoven, inseparable. What?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's
There you go.
there's very little movement room here.
How about I just suck on it from now on? I'm just gonna
if you
talk
did-
like this, and everybody's gonna love it because they can hear me now, right?
I know some people who actually do that, so don't.
No, Briggs, I think the gain on your line went down somehow.
Yeah, that's called me fucking with the audio board because sometimes he's yelling and it's peeking the shit out of things, but then sometimes he holds it away from his mouth because he doesn't understand mic placement. I'll get it through his head one day.
They need to invent a bong mic. That way, because you would never have problems hearing Briggs if that were a thing.
It would just be sitting near my face and it
You just hear a lot of bubbling and fucking wind.
Why does
First
it
and
sound like
foremost,
the
God
inside of the space bukkake? Oh, Briggs' microphone.
There's no fornication, adultry,
all
homosexual,
that
or
semen.
lesbian behavior. Embracing such practices
Delicious,
opens
tasty,
up
and
a
salty.
nation to all kinds of evil. In the book of Romans, God spells out what is in the hearts of sexually immoral men and women. Here's what God says in Romans 1, starting with verse 28. And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, God gave them over to depraved minds to do things which are not proper, being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They are
Pause it right there.
gossips.
God gave them over to this. He basically literally says in the in what he quoted
Girl,
right there,
girl.
that God let it happen on purpose. He gave them over to this depravity and this
God, dude,
he's
fucking
saying
spit
it's
up the
God's
cum.
fault. He's saying it's God's fault.
Cough up the semen, dude. Get it out the back of your throat and then speak. God.
Just real quickly go, hey, kids.
What? Hey, can we go back for a minute?
Yeah.
And go back to the chapter and verse that he quotes?
All right.
Romans, God spells out what is in the hearts of sexually immoral men and women. Here's what God says in Romans 1, starting with verse 28.
128.
All right, he's looking for it. He's
Got
actually
it.
pulled the Bible up.
Got it. Okay. Continue.
The regular one or the Skeptics Annotated one? Because that one's more
King
fun.
James Version.
And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, God gave them over to depraved minds to do things which are not proper, being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful.
You know, I just have to say, I really wish that Wild Bill would learn to put his lapel mic, on his main shirt instead of on his fucking vest and a little higher up. Because the whole point is he has to have the gain so fucking high that we can hear the crickets chirping from a mile a fucking way. Fix your shit, Wild Bill.
Ha ha. IED for the win. I hear nothing of the crickets. All I hear is like a garble right above the level of his voice. So you guys are more annoyed than I am by the video. Awesome.
Inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful, and although they know the ordinances of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but also give hearty approval.
Stop that right there, and I can discount this in one word. He
Nice.
started this out by saying, this is what God said in Romans 1:28. Everywhere that Jesus Christ spoke is annotated in
red.
the book of Matthews. All other books are recounts of Jesus' story from another perspective. Either it's Paul's letter to the Church of Corinthians, or one of these other churches, or one of the other apostles retelling the
More
story.
than one word.
Yeah.
You said in one word.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. I got out on a rant. I did apologize. God didn't say that. To imply that is false, because it's the words of another person.
Holy dog shit.
Oh my God.
That
The
was
internet's
so.
allowed to work.
That was so fucking loud.
Who, me?
Holy shit! Yeah, like all of the sudden, your guys' gain just flew through the roof, and
Gains keep fluctuating. What in the fuck is up with that?
it's not on my side. It's on theirs. It's the fucking.
I blame God.
See, now it's.
I'm having to change the volume of the audio on my side so we can hear you sometimes.
I can barely hear him.
Yeah, we can barely even hear you at the moment now.
I turned my mic down because you said you were hearing us too loud. I've been turning the speakers up on our side because the white noise coming out of the background gain on those videos has made it hard to hear.
Oh,
Because we're
okay.
not using headphones.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry. It was just really weird because for some weird, strange reason there, your guys' gain just flew through the fucking roof, and I'm like, oh my god, my fucking ears. Sorry,
about that.
audience.
Sorry for everybody who might watch.
Yeah. Did you get the gist of my message? What I was saying, that the passage he's speaking out is a letter either from Paul or one of the other apostles to another church, and he's telling a story that didn't really. It was an anecdote. It was not an anecdote. It was a way for him to describe problems that he saw within their church. God didn't say, Jesus didn't say that, and he's taking it out of context. And by him saying God said it, begins his conversation with falsehood.
Well, okay, so you also have to remember that a lot of the times that these guys, and this is why I've seen this a lot from Wild Bill, from a few other people, when they say that God says, it's because they're reading it straight out of the Bible, and their belief is that the Bible is 100% the Word of God through and through, even though it was written by humans. That it was almost some of them, I wouldn't say it's akin to like the person who's writing it or who's scribing it is possessed by God, but it's almost to that level. That's kind of the mindset. But it's their thought is that everything in the Bible is written by God, no matter how you look at it, because he is the divine author. So that's what he's probably saying, most likely. Not to really defend him, but that's just that's kind of what I've seen from him.
See, it's at this point where I go back into, you guys are debating the extent of the powers of Green Lantern's fucking power ring at this point. So, it's obviously this guy's interpretation has been taken in the exact context that he needed it in order to justify his taught beliefs through the people that raised him to be bigoted against homosexual behavior, or more than likely in race or in gender. All those really bad facets of religion that have nothing to do with the compassion of the faith, which is what you ascribe to. And they use anything they can to justify it. I mean, it's like the whole Star Trek versus Star Wars debate. You know how many goddamn blogs there are out there with assholes going on about which would win, the Enterprise D or a Star Destroyer? I mean, it's like spending real physics time trying to figure out the details on this shit. It's all that matters to me. The fact is that at the end of the day, his faith, and no matter how he sees his faith, leads him to a place where faith is not centered around compassion. It's centered around changing other people's behavior outside of their will, even when that behavior does not come into conflict with your own ability to live your life.
Oh,
and it's every religion does that to some extent.
Yeah.
And it's because of that bad interpretation, not people not being like you.
I got you. I understand, and I appreciate that, and I can even surmise where that comes from. There are several passages in several religious texts that speak about going forth and multiplying, or going forth and preaching the word.
Done did that one to fucking death.
Quite often, they do misinterpret even that. That was not a stipulation for your salvation in the Bible. That's something that you should do, and if you really get down to it, all it's saying is share your faith with others. Anyone who wants to talk to me about it, I will gladly talk to you about it, because it's something for which I'm proud of. But that does not mean that I'm put here to convert you. If you're going to be converted, or if you're going to be ascribed to my faith or whatever, that's your choice. And God, whether you're a Christian or Buddhist, whatever God you believe in, if they're all powerful God, they can use those experiences to their ability. They don't need me to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks of it this way, but I think of it in the same terms that I would say about different fandoms in popular culture. People who are Supernatural fans, or people who are Star Trek fans. I know I'm not trying to minimize what it means to you, but I'm saying in the context of those, especially those of us who don't share the principle of a faith of any kind. All right. The fact is that it's perfectly acceptable for anybody to go home and read as much fucking manga as they want, or watch as much Star Trek as they want. You can go home and find your faith in your religion, or your text, or however it is that you derive your faith in your own personal life. And as long as it doesn't affect my ability to live my life in the way that I choose, especially when it doesn't harm you, then I don't care what it is you have. And I would love to have great conversations. And I do love to have great conversations like this with people that have a compassion in their faith and a compassion in their life that allows them to accept others, regardless of what they are.
So Terry, I would like to say that at some point in time, I would enjoy on my channel maybe going on and doing just some one-on-ones with you, talking about different topics like that, stuff that from kind of from what I see now versus what I saw when I was a Christian, and then just kind of your perspective on stuff. Like I said, at some later point in the future here, we're also going to be bringing on my buddy Jeff from work, and Jeff is an assistant pastor. So we can have this kind of not necessarily a debate, because Jeff is very much like you actually. His whole thought is basically almost exactly to yours. I think he might just, I don't know what specific denomination you tend to fall under, but that may be the one key difference. But
maybe I tend to fall non-denominational these days.
Yeah, I think he fits kind of in this like weird offshoot of like, it's not LDS. It's kind of one of those like offshoot brands of Christianity.
Jehovah's.
Shriners is a club now.
No, they're also a small sect of the faith.
Oh,
so,
no, and not Jehovah's Witnesses either. I don't know. It's still basically kind of a Pentecostal style almost, but not quite.
There's so many different
Yeah, there's so many different
denominations of Christian nowadays.
Mennonite, maybe?
This guy, you know what? I just figured it out. Wild Bill is missing the bolo tie. That's why I'm having such a hard time.
He is missing the bolo
he
tie. That
is.
would complete the look. The
Yeah.
sunglasses
Well, he's got the
just
sunglasses.
don't do it.
No, the sunglasses don't work. He needs a bolo tie.
It's the
needs
Top
the
Gun bolo
bolo.
tie. Right? He's got his shades down there like Goose.
Gotcha.
It doesn't work with the leather vest and fucking Western fucking look to him.
With the fucking lapel mic on.
He needs the bolo tie.
Learn to hide it better, you fuck.
Subdued American flag.
Yeah, he's got subdued shit all over. But he's not a veteran, is he? I thought we established that.
We have questioned the
No, he's
validity
just
of his
American.
Well, no, we questioned the validity of his having work with the Texas Rangers, because he said he was a police officer, but from what I've understood from a few other posts, and initially the Drunken Peasants had mentioned this one as well, that it seems like that is in question of whether or not he actually was a member of the Rangers or not.
Where is he in the country? Because
He's in Florida right now, I think.
Okay, yeah, the palm trees.
He's fucking with him. He's thinking Texas, and he's getting Florida.
Yeah.
No, he's in Florida, but like I said, he used to live in Texas, and I think that's where he's originally from. Hence the kind of mindset that he has.
Yeah, yet another disconnect right there. I've always been of the idea that home is where you are, and you should embrace it. I may have been born in New Jersey, but that's not where I claim. I may have raised in Alabama, but that's not where I claim. I right now I'm from Colorado because that's where I am, and I embrace it. And
That's kind of born from embracing the suck in the military too, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
You haven't really had a firm fixed address for over a decade, right?
True.
I mean,
True. But
I'm still weirded out by having lived here for 3 years.
Yeah. The fact that he's in Texas garb in Florida tells me he hasn't fully embraced the Florida lifestyle. If he had, he would be playing shuffleboard with some old lady at a retirement community, not dating the internet with this bigoted garbage.
He'd still be dressed like that, though.
Yeah, but he'd still be playing shuffleboard. So I mean, what's worse? Be like, so did Crocodile Dundee decide to come down here and play shuffleboard, or is this just some fucking fruitcake? I think we know the answer to that.
He's not shuffleboarding when he's not recording videos. Like that, he's obviously a retiree. He's got nothing to do with his life. He just makes videos to put on the YouTube, and then he goes to play shuffleboard and bingo.
I think his
So
viewer
where's his
count
grandson or whoever that helps him put these videos up is what I want to know. You ever think that kid just be like, oh, shut the fuck up, Grandpa?
no, that's probably community service. They send you to the old folks home for community service. But no, honestly, like this is the type of guy that strikes me is that at the old folks home, that he's one of those ones that tries to strike up a conversation to compare everybody's different era version of calling black people a bad name. All right. They're like, what was your decade's big word for black people? And they go, ooh. That's the type of people that this guy belongs to.
Either that or he's the sleazy old guy that hits on Nana in the nursing home that you want to hate. Fuck you.
That is God's declaration on exactly what the gay rights people are all about. Why in the world would any sane nation want to bring that stuff to the people and the families that live there? No business should be forced to hire a person of low moral character. I do not want such a person preparing my food. No law
God, Tim. Shit.
enforcement agencies should pin a badge on such a person. No one who boasts of such a lifestyle should be trusted in public office. No one should be forced to rent their home.
So because I stick my fucking dick in my husband's ass, I should not be like able to do anything for run for office because I'm not to be trusted because I have sex with another guy. Where the fuck do you get your logic from? Like, I don't understand why this is a thing that these
His
people actually
distorted
believe.
perception of the Bible. That's where he gets it from.
He's like, let's be fair. He did.
I
say,
said his distorted
say
perception.
that you shouldn't be allowed to run for office, or you shouldn't be hired at a company because you have a low moral character. Quote his words, and again, that's his very bigoted, very hateful assumption that anyone that does not believe as he believes is by virtue less than. That he's the only one. His interpretation, his ideals is the only right way of thinking about it, and therefore you're less. It's everyone wants to think, oh, I'm better than you. You're lesser than me, and that's
I
what
just
he's
thought of
done,
Anna
which is
Kasparian when you mentioned that.
yeah, which is why I take offense to it.
Have you seen that clip?
Yeah, I seem to remember having seen that clip at some point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very animated. What's up?
Do what?
So you guys look very animated. Is something going on?
No, I don't think so. I'm not seeing any problems on my end.
What?
To the point where you want to say, David, shut the fuck up, because we can.
Now, actually, as a random aside, because I don't think we care too much more of what he's saying, because we already know what he's saying. Just, as kind of a weird little aside, at least one random story that I can remember now off the top of my head. I feel like I had another one, but I can't remember it now. Kind of a slight step back to the video that we were watching before of yours, David. I actually ended up getting this random text from a coworker in my company. He'll remain nameless, and I think I've actually worked with him like one time, but he's a friend on Facebook, and he sends me this post on Facebook, a private message rather. He's like, "Hey, Ali, I feel like God has placed it on my heart to be of some support to you. Not many people know this, but I'm trans too. Choose to suppress my nature for the sake of my children." So it's kind of cool. Like I've noticed this a couple of times. A couple of people have, because they've seen me talk about it on Facebook and stuff before, that they come forward and they'll actually talk to me a little bit. So it's kind of cool. But I'm like, okay, whatever. Not sure how far you've taken anything, but before you move forward with any surgeries and spend a ton of money, I know of some natural and effective methods to achieve real results that you're searching for that I've seen personally using frequencies and hypnosis. So,
what?
Yes, exactly. So
they're trying to talk a person out of a sex change surgery by using hypnosis.
So,
is that what I was getting from that?
Yes, that is exactly what it is.
Okay.
And like I said, I know
guess
this.
my question is this coworker coming to you out of a position of a genuine compassion and concern, or do you think that this is some kind of a gag or maliciousness? Because ignorance is not woefully negative; it's just ignorant, and ignorance can be corrected.
Yeah. So my
from not a bad place.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I just
Yeah, and I after talking with him for more than like the one text, so I talked with him for a few minutes thereafter, and expressed in no short order what I believe and things like that. And I said, I may never, necessarily. Well, let's see. What did I say here? I've got support. My plan's already set, and let's see, where's my at here. The worst I'm probably going to end up honestly doing is dealing with testicular removal. Honestly, so and I don't really care. Everyone can know. Yay, I'm going to be a futa instead.
It's your life, brother.
Hey, that's exactly it. So, well, that's because he tends to enjoy what I've got down there.
Was he trying to talk you out of it, or was he trying to say that it wasn't necessary?
Trying to be. He's trying to kind of say it's not necessary, that there's a way around it using frequencies and hypnosis, and I'm like, I will respectfully say that I appreciate the support, and it's mutual if you ever need it. However, I'm not at all religious, and I don't really believe in the hypothesis of frequencies and hypnosis, so I've never seen good conclusive evidence of it working. And he's like, cool, either way, I'm not trying to push religion on you, and I don't want to step on anything or any plans you have. So I appreciate, because I feel that he's coming from it from a genuine perspective. And he's trying to be nice. And, of course, I have to work with him in some small aspect, or I will in the future, and so I'll be respectful and everything. I think he's a bit of a nutter, but kind of just random, though, because I had him on my friends list for maybe like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks now, and just at random he posts that little bit of information to me. So kind of something a little bit random, offshoot.
Hey, I used to work with a woman who believed in the healing power of crystals, and
my sister.
Yeah, and how your signs align down to the week. If whether you're a water sign, in the Aries rising, whatever. And she was kind of out there, and often she would feel the need to share her experiences in such an extent to how they applied to my life. Like she would say, well, let me do an alignment with my crystals on you because your aura seems out of sync. It's not coming from a place. It's coming from a place of genuine respect and concern, and these people want to share. These people. That's a method by which you can share your beliefs without forcing them on anyone, which I support. If you
thought you had a functional cure for cancer, wouldn't you give to everybody that you thought had cancer?
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said, I don't find any of what he said to be wrong or to be something to be pissed off about by any means. It was literally just kind of like, oh, this is kind of a weird thing that happened, and I wanted to kind of just toss it in because I meant to do it on the last video, but we kind of bypassed it so quickly I didn't think about it. So just something little.
What I would, and this is just a suggestion. You should respectfully decline his offers of his hypnotism with regards to your decision to make the sex change, but see if there's any other method by which you could benefit from hypnotism. Maybe your chakras can be realigned, and just for the experience or the shits and giggles out of it, go get your the magnets put on your head and experience that at least once in your life. Everywhere I go, I tend to find a tarot reader or a witch or some little small business that I'll go and frequent. I don't believe in it at all, 100%, but I'll go because it's fun and it's funny and I can have a laugh about it.
And there's always a good story at the end of it, right?
Exactly.
So here's the funny thing though. So I say in general that I've kind of quote unquote accepted being an atheist for like, I don't know, maybe about 5 years. But before I ever got into the military, at the age of 17, 18, 19, I did spend a lot of time checking out a lot of those other kind of religious beliefs and everything, and I've kind of looked in, a little bit of. I never did the Wiccan side of things. I have a couple of Wiccan friends, but I never did that one. Looking at some of like the ancient Indian religious values and their kind of mindset on
Paganism's
stuff.
fun, man.
Some different forms of like the paganism, different forms of
pagans are fun parties too.
Damn straight. That's what I'm saying. Paganism's fun.
But so I've gone to some of these places. I've gone and gotten the tarot card reading and gotten my signs done and everything. And it is, admittedly, even for an atheist who just does not believe this stuff, I would say, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Plus, on top of that, if you spend the time and get into a little bit of a conversation with these people that believe these things, now while you're going to get some complete utter nutters in there, you'll find a few people who are reasonable who believe these things, and they'll kind of like give you a very different perspective on what they believe. And it may be something you've never heard of before, but later on in your life, that may be a good point for you to be able to remember, this is their kind of belief in their system. For me, it's a learning experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think I lost a babysitter the other day just asking our babysitter, who happens to be of one of the other faiths, the Indian faiths,
Feather or dot?
Sorry?
Feather or dot?
Oh, come on, man. Seriously? Like,
I'm just fucking around.
He did say Indian and not Native
like
American.
Indian subcontinent, right? But I would have said Native
I
American.
imagine a progressive like him would know the difference.
Yeah, you'd think, right? I'm not exactly being SJW with this. I'm just saying that I'm referring to her area of her faith's nationality, not to.
I am just being a derp. Just let it be. You could have ran with the joke and failed. You fail.
It face planted badly. It was like one of those epic fail compilations.
It's like my joke earlier in the.
Oh god,
that went way too far.
Yeah, way. But no, I mean, so I was just asking her some.
Wait. Somebody went way too far. Did I miss this?
No, that was when he mentioned sending
watching
Gail
the
our
show.
semen.
Oh yeah.
That was
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Terry. Sorry about that. I mean, Boyd.
But yeah, but like all I did was ask a few just kind of nuts and bolts questions about her faith, because I even prefaced it with, I'm always curious to hear about a faith from a member of the faith, not from an external reference. I want to hear what you feel your faith is. How does your faith come together? What are the principles? What's the morality? I mean, those are not hard questions, and it was a conversational tone, but I think she took offense to it just for the thought that I was trying to ask her about her faith, and I've never understood that. And she went and made a big point of the idea that, their faith doesn't seek out other people. That they say you come to them kind of thing.
Well, you were going to them. You were
right, like.
Well, no, in a religious setting, not in a personal setting.
I guess when I look at stuff like that, I tend to just question, like, if someone does take offense to just you asking about their religious beliefs, make in some way, shape, or form really sure that they personally may not have the best grasp of what their beliefs actually are. So they, it's just at that point, it's like, I'm this religion because of popularity, or because I was raised with it, or because of X or Y or Z, instead of I have an actual firm belief that is nearly unchangeable in my mind. Because that's what in some states, I think that's what some belief is. I don't know. For me, I've had a lot of weird thoughts on my own conscience in the last couple of months.
Sometimes people.
I don't vocalize it well.
Have a hard time, pinning it down. Like they can't even give a concrete reason as to why they believe what they believe, and to them, conversations like that, even it shocks them, or it puts them in almost a defensive state right away, because they don't know how to respond, and it makes them feel a little uncomfortable, and that uncomfort puts them in a defensive state.
It's unfortunate though.
Yeah, it is.
When you're asking genuine questions because you have genuine curiosity, I don't understand the idea of taking offense. I mean, it's not like, even understanding that a person's not a member of your faith or of any faith, the idea should be that if they're asking you out of genuine curiosity and they say, look, I intellectually would like to understand more about you. Yeah. I don't see what the offensiveness is of that. Briggs, do you have an idea on that?
Yes, there honestly is. I can't see any offense in it, but some people are just way too thin-skinned.
Yeah, and again, I tend to believe in some small aspect of these people, when they are brought up against just even some basic questioning, it really has to deal with how they were raised to handle being questioned about things that are deeply held beliefs. Maybe in a home, they may be very religious, but they won't, ever talk about it as to why they are, or as to what they actually believe. It's just a matter of, it's not a topic to be passed around in their household. So later on in life, they won't tend to want to do that with other people as well, because then it just becomes this, I remember back when I was younger, we weren't supposed to talk about these things in the house. And so unless it is in the religious setting, they don't want to actually deal with it, in a personal setting.
And that description of a person with that mindset or with that idea, that they're not comfortable talking about their faith, or they don't question their faith. That idea is addressed, or has been brought up in a very popular sermon, which talks about our growth as believers in the faith. Right? When we're early in our faith, or when we are less knowledgeable in our faith, meaning we haven't questioned and read and studied and experienced, we seek out and crave the simple things, which church and or I would say a church-like setting is simple. You go there, you listen to the preacher, you don't have to put thought into it, you receive it, and it's a one-way communication, and that's it. And those that truly, or I shouldn't say truly, those that grow in their faith, that question and have their faith tested and read and study and experience, their needs for faith grow. They by virtue of questioning, they learn more about what it means to be a Christian or a Buddhist or an Indian, whatever, and they grow. But if you don't ever question, you will never get beyond that need to just receive the word, and that's it.
Well, I mean, again, but that's your faith, and others may not have that same kind of
concept.
Well,
I've seen a lot of people who just don't tend to want to question anything in their faith in any way, shape, or form. Now, let me ask you, Terry, have you questioned your faith at any given time?
Oh, numerous times. I have, and in fact, that is, I can tell you to this day, January 24th, 2004 is when I made the adult decision to come to God on my own through experiences, through a period in which I was questioning my faith, and through numerous times I question everything I do, periodically. I weigh it, how does this build up with my religious beliefs? How does this build up with my personal beliefs? How is this going to be perceived? I question and listen and absorb, and where God leads me, He leads me through my studies, through my experience, wherever. And to me, you can't have faith without questioning faith, because to me that's not faith. That's just blindly following. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. At least to me, it does.
It makes total sense.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, is Terry tends to make sense versus some people, who just spout the things that they believe without any kind of like thought behind it.
Well, no, the only thing I was going to get with that is that's the only consideration that I want for Michael. That, raising him in a secular way isn't meant to prohibit his decision to practice religion of his own accord. What I want for him is just like a lot of other topics we've been on, where we all pretty much agreed on the same function of that it needs to be a considered choice for their life when they're old enough to understand it.
Oh yeah, that's a thing actually. So in spirit with what you're talking about, allowing your son to be able to choose when he's a little bit more of age to be able to understand it. Going back to the transgender thing, and I don't remember if we talked about this last time. Did I mention about the child who at 10 years old?
Oh yeah, we went all through that.
Okay,
that's where we kind of came to that point, was that we don't think that there's necessarily direct evidence that person was mature enough to understand their decision making.
Yeah,
and we're dealing with indoctrination, and that's the same consideration that I want for Michael with him. Is I don't want his experience with religion to be an indoctrination.
Well, it shouldn't. His experience with anything. You don't
Right,
want to
exactly.
indoctrinate
Exactly, and that's my point. I want him to understand the world, understand what we've learned as a species, to know what science is, to weigh its merits on its own level. And if he's mature enough to do those things, then he's mature enough to look at religion for its own merit and decide for himself if he wants to get himself circumcised, or if he wants to have it be a Christian or a Buddhist or a Muslim. Whatever it is for him, it needs to be a reasoned decision of maturity, not just because mom and dad told me when I was a little kid that Santa Claus was coming. I freaking believed them.
Well,
all right? Like every other kid. You believe mom and dad implicitly because they're your sole source of knowledge. So when you put a concept like that in a child's mind, what you're doing is you're saying that like rainbows and the blue sky itself, these things absolutely are true because I say so, not because you have any reason to believe so. All right, and that's the wrong angle. So yeah, I guarantee you, conversions would drop off quite steeply if circumcisions happened at 18. All right,
Right.
no, and because people would have to weigh those merits for themselves. But when you're born and you're circumcised before you even can see your parents' face, you have no choice, no decision making in the process. And then if you're told, well, we did that because God, you've already told me you've lopped a part of my anatomy off because God. So even as a child, you have to think, well, my parents wouldn't do that to me if they thought it was something hurting me.
Interesting fact, the practice of circumcision in the biblical sense used to not happen until adulthood.
The first one was an adult guy in the desert, and God said, "Cut your shit off." And you went, "Okay."
But when that ceremony by which
I have to say,
give me all of your foreskins.
Those poor motherfuckers, man. No anesthesia, no nothing. You're just like, hey, just stick your dick on this log and fucking use this sharp stone.
Foreskins were more valuable than shekels in those days.
Yeah, well, like I said, just use a gently.
Got a fucking flint knife for taking fur off an animal, and you're using that dull ass fucking thing on your foreskin out in the desert in 130-degree heat. And no painkillers. You've never been laid. God talks to you and worries about everything you're doing. Every time you take a shit, God's going, "What you doing, Abraham? How you been? It's been a few minutes, hasn't it?" All right. And Abraham goes, "All right, what the fuck do you want?"
Damn it.
And God goes, "You see that thing on the end of your dick? Yeah. You know how it gets itchy? Go ahead and cut it off." And he goes, "Really? Right now?" "Yep, right now."
Do it.
Son of a bitch. All right,
Jew
God.
it. Fucking Jew it.
Well, also historically, the places in which they lived was not very hygienic, and infection was a thing. So
I get that there was real, actual, practical reasons. Just like witchcraft, there are practical reasons for what they do. They're trying to cure ailments. They're, knowing that worms are in pigs, pork, you probably shouldn't eat it if you don't know how to cook it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a practical, reasonable, medical, scientific standard, a thing to say to your group. You say, look, you guys are not smart enough to know how to cook a pork chop. Stop eating the pork chops. You're all dying. All right. God said do this because you're not listening to me. God said do it. That's a reasonable thing to have had happen back in the day. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. And that's why I give religion not necessarily a complete pass, but I give it the nod of understanding as when we were a very young species without the kind of brain capacity that we have now, the ability of using religion as a way of not only population control in some way, shape, or form, as in controlling the populace from, a social aspect, not from like a, reproductive aspect. I can fully understand how religion at the time was very much useful and very much I would almost say needed. In some cases. What?
Like training wheels.
Yeah, exactly. But as we as a species have changed over the millennia, then we I think in some ways we are starting to get to a time where that's becoming a less prevalent thing, simply because not only are we learning more about it, but a lot of people are starting to see the things that they believe are not, it's not kind of worth it to them as much anymore.
The dogma exceeds the message. Like David's religion and faith of compassion is a positive thing because it's centered around a core value, right? But a lot of people, they get so tied up in the dogma, the minutia of the differences in between those things, and forget all about the compassion. And that was really the message. So look, we'll be way better off as a species if we're just not gigantic assholes to each other all the time.
Yeah.
If we think of each other as equals and deserving of love and deserving of compassion, no matter who you are, which was that was Jesus' message, right?
Yes.
All right. You get every person, no matter the lowest person on this planet, whatever you do to the least of these, you do to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most famous thing to come out of the New Testament, isn't it?
It's one of. Yeah.
All right. So in that respect, that idea that, you're speaking of compassion to the least of anyone in God's creation. That's every person, not a specific race, not a specific gender, not a specific sexual orientation. That's every single member of God's creation. And that compassion, if we're more compassionate to one another, the world improves. And then we see that difference in the way that's applied these days by people who profess to be grounded in that orientation, that faith. that we have homeless, we have poverty, we have rampant disease, we have war and genocide and all these truly horrifying fucking, like sideshow Edgar Allan fucking wet dreams. All right. Like Orwell has turned into a dynamo in his grave with how much shit's going on right now.
And he's turning over in power in Cleveland.
Yeah, exactly. Him and Tesla have created AC in the graves, all right? Because they look at our lack of progress in technology and how shitty we are to each other and the way we share that technology that we do have. How
by blowing
can
them up.
anybody say that those messages are being listened to? When we go to bed at night and there's hungry children in our nation, we can't say we're following a message like that. There's no logical standing to say that.
I would agree. I mean, we have to deal with that. It's fucking rampant everywhere. Not just children who are hungry in our own country, children and families who are homeless in our own country. Why do we give out so much money in fucking foreign aid to other places and not take care of our own people? Why do we not make sure that everyone's able to eat at the end of the fucking night?
No, they just came out with the world estimates. We spend $13.1 trillion U.S. dollars per year worldwide on the practice of war. All right, and it was done the same. The Congressional Budget Office survey and a couple of NGOs got together and they came out with a figure that to solve world hunger for every single member of the human species on this planet or anywhere else in the universe is $30 billion a year. But we spend at least a magnitude factor of 10 more than that on killing each other as a species over arbitrary horse shit. Lines on a map. Somebody shit on somebody else's grandma's ragu 3,000 years ago, and they're still beefing about it. All right? And instead, then we turn around and the same people that have these fundamental societal problems, like the earthquake in fucking Italy, the whole world is paying attention to it because as we do, as a species, as an individual, we have compassion for other people. If you don't, you're a sociopath. So you hear about children in Syria,
like my old boss.
or children in Syria or old women in Italy that are dying or in pain or suffering. We feel something human for them. We feel compassion the same way we would for one of our own. Maybe not the same level of emotion, but we do feel compassion.
I think that it has a somewhat of a biological aspect to it because we seem as a species to have a very distinct bubble. Our ability to empathize is very limited to within within 13 people. Like I can empathize with those
the
people
Zipf paradox.
interact with and care for my family, my very close friends, my siblings. And I care deeply about I'm more likely to go running across the country to their side because I care for them. But then I look in the news and I see, some of these other things that is so far removed from my bubble that I can't understand them. Yes, I can feel bad about it and be like, oh, but I cannot comprehend that level of empathy on such a global scale that's where I think the disconnect is. We have not biologically traversed to that point to be able to feel
but we
that
technologically traversed it. That's my point. And the fact that we're having this conversation in 2 different time zones, in 2 different states, in real time, and broadcasting it out to the world to whoever might be watching, 1 or 2 people drunk at a frat somewhere.
To be fair, we actually have 15 subscribers to the channel, so that's actually we're already on a good uptick. We need to market this shit better. But anyways, on to your point.
Well, you need to throw out some Twitter links and shit like that for me ahead of the show, and I'll boost it up with my whole 160 odd followers in the world. But
way more than I have.
Well, there you go.
I've only got like 48.
I have 0 because I do not subscribe to Twitter.
Yeah, he doesn't like your tweet bag.
I refuse. Facebook is like I'm pissed. I had to delete my MySpace and create a Facebook page, and I'm still pissed off about it.
You're like, God damn it, I'm not allowed to put fucking shitty music and fucking seizure-inducing dogs with rainbows behind it, blinking behind the image.
Live journal motherfuckers selling out to the man at MySpace.
Fuck.
Well, no, I gotta find this video for you guys. It's do you guys watch the Vsauce thread at any point?
Oh fuck, man, Vsauce is the best. I've watched all 3 channels.
You're
talking about the Zipf number, right?
Did you see the video on the Zipf curves?
Yeah, I have. I didn't understand it very well because I'm just not Honestly, I'm not minded that way.
Okay,
much.
well, real quick and dirty on that one for anybody who wants to watch. I'll get him to throw the link up on the screen at some point. But the idea is that there is a direct correlative value between the way we use words and a curve of usefulness. That the most
that's
used
what it
word,
was.
yeah, the most used word in the language gets used half the time. But then as you move away from the most used word, it goes exactly by its ranking order. So think about that in the way that humans interact. That that whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing
Keeps that nice little consistent curve going all the way down.
It's actually that's logarithmically, it comes down at an angle. Or sorry, I'll try to do this on the screen. It comes down at an angle, but
but it's a dip and it goes out.
It's like as you in the 20% of the values are 80% of the occurrences.
Yeah.
All right. So 20% of the people in the world are the 20% closest people to you in human.
Thank you, Terry.
I know. All right. But the 20% of the people in the world closest to you societally, either through friends or family or work or school, those are the people you're going to spend 80% of your care on, your empathy.
Exactly.
And then as people get distant away from even the homeless guy you walk by on the way to school, all right, you see a guy, you give him some money, you may give him a muffin or something, you try to help him out in the little way that you know that you can. But you're not going to worry about him as much as your husband.
Oh yeah, well of course. That
that's what I'm
level of
saying,
empathy doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work on all levels.
We have yet to move biologically past that.
Right, but we technologically moved past it. And the fact is that we can use the values of large numbers that we know we can count, like what policies do to affect poverty and hunger and war and disease and all of these things. And we can do things, make a plan scientifically to say we are going to try to put a policy in place to positively affect this problem. And then we're going to look at it for a little while. And if it works, this is going to become law. And that way our society becomes compassionate regardless of that ziff difference between me and you. We can bridge the ziff difference between both of our curves.
And what a world it would be to boldly go.
I know that was a nerd moment. You guys can
It
laugh at me
was.
for being a nerd.
No,
it was. I understand your entire point behind it, and again, having watched the video helps a little bit, so I understand a little bit more potentially what you're talking about over, say, what Briggs knows of it. Maybe we'll watch the video a little later, but I don't know. It's Terry's right in so many aspects, because looking at how we just don't have that level of empathy for anyone else on the
fine too.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
Fine. That's what I'm saying. We're not designed
we
to.
have not reached that point yet. I fear that
we haven't evolved to be able to handle it yet. It's not necessarily designed.
That I don't think we will.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that we don't necessarily, we don't have to develop a biological understanding of all 6-7 billion members of our species. Not on a one-to-one empathy level to where I care about you the same level I care about my son. We're close, we're friends, we're battle buddies, we've served together, but my son still will have closer proximity to me than you.
Yeah, I understand.
All right? But technologically, I can make decisions in the world and help others to come to understand decisions that positively affect you in the same way they'll positively affect my son.
And again, those advances, those steps in that direction, they cannot come as long as we have very clear roadblocks in the way. Because some of those changes, they come at the heels of those that already benefit greatly from the way things are.
Oh, I know, but that's the idea of social revolution. It happens. It's happened every fucking time there's been an empire. It's fallen, right? Do we have an empire that's ever existed that hasn't fallen yet?
I think we're
Not that
reaching
I know of.
like 500 years is about the longest civilization ever to last in the world. But Briggs, man, you okay? You look kind of bored.
Yeah, I'm.
He's either thinking or he's just very stoned.
Pretty stoned. Just don't really
that's
have anything to contribute on this.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a different topic than we kind of normally cover, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm enjoying this. I could have this talk for hours, but it'd kill us.
The whole honestly religion thing is something that I burnt myself out on.
I guess the only reason I
decade
haven't.
ago.
I guess the only reason I haven't is because it's something like. It's kind of like watching all this shit that goes on with, you know, the fucking the politics or the social justice movement and all that shit, I can still handle listening to anything on religion too, because I think, to me, I don't find an end to the kind of things that I just tend to like ripping on too much or like joking about. I'm more about the laughs that come from it.
Points, honestly.
Yeah, it's the same points, but
it's always the
have
same
laughs
points.
because you know what? You can
over
also
and
find
over
those
again.
same people that you're ripping on are also the ones that are those obstacles that you were talking about. Those people that are the fucking just in the way motherfuckers that are just holding history back.
Yeah, I've always had that. I've questioned that quite a few times too, about how what the possibility is of how far we would have progressed as a species had, say, the Dark Ages not happened, or say that religion had never been a part of our existence in general. What that change would have done, what it would be now if we were nothing but religious versus scientific.
Can I stop you? Yeah,
Go ahead.
Everyone, I've heard this argument a lot that the Dark Ages and ascribe it to some religious aspect. The Dark Ages came about when a mass amount of our population died from fucking bubonic plague, and people retreated within themselves. Yes, religion might not have helped the matter during the situation, but it wasn't because of anything that they solely did. It's just at that point in our human existence, we could not handle mass death, and we just kind of retreated, and that's why we didn't get any advancement.
Well, okay, so I say the Dark Ages, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I believe that's the only point in time in history where this is a thing. I'm using that as a very basic a very basic example.
But we were talking about faith as a set of training wheels. Those things that when your toddler's not listening, you have to find the thing that is going to make them listen. So, right, exactly. What TV show is going to shut the little asshole up for 5 minutes so you can actually go to the bathroom? And, but
Throw
at
Barney
that same
on.
level, back in the day, they were trying to do this so people wouldn't die because people were stupid. So they said, look, all right, fuck it. God said to do this shit. All right? Listen to me, goddammit, because God said do it. Because mom and dad weren't getting the point across.
And then, as with many things, money got mixed in this situation. Money and power and privilege came to the religious class, and then people with power, with privilege, with money, they want more power and privilege and money, and that's where we got the Roman Catholic faith. That's where we got these oligarchical religious societies that have, through doctrination and dogmatic way, screwed the whole message up.
So what then would be a good stopping point for religion? If we can take the position that religion had a positive, beneficial relationship with our species for a length of time. All right, at some point, either the people fucked it up, like he's talking about, or it wore out its welcome and science and logic have taken over. At what point would a really good transitional period be between a secular society and a religious one?
I mean,
Like,
if you're
how far
asking that
back
as an
is that?
actual hypothetical, I cannot answer that in any way, shape, or form because, like I said, at this point in time, I still believe that in some small way, for some people, religion is a better option than what they would do without it. So
yeah, I have to believe that there is something better out there because I look around in the world today and I see all this shit. And if I did not believe that there was something better waiting for me, I would go hopelessly insane. I would.
What about the idea that the person who is offering you this peace in the afterlife is the same person who put all that shit there?
Yeah, you're back.
My mouth is right next to the mic.
Yeah, that's the design.
Here, go ahead. Say it again anyway. Sorry, we missed it.
What did I say?
You were talking about the fact that God was the one that actually that created all those situations as well. So why would you want to be in in an afterlife with a God that has also created all the things that you find reprehensible about life in general?
Yeah, see,
rectal warts.
Okay, so would you like to answer this, or do you want?
Anal
Yeah,
prolapse.
if you
Okay,
could.
so
yeah,
man. That's another problem I see within a lot of people that share Christian views or religious views in general, is that they're quick to blame God for all the bad and all the good. And you know what? The same is true with the devil.
I'm punching him.
with the
Sorry.
devil. God created us with free will and choice, and that above all is what He desired. And then He gave us this roadmap to peace afterwards, and that's what matters. You know, I don't care. I frankly don't care. Well, not that shit. I lost my train. Yeah, I lost my
Porky
train of
Pig
thought.
over here. Blip, 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 blip. That's all, folks.
I don't care. It's getting late. You know,
This
the fact
this
of the
train of
matter-
thought goes lower than 55 miles an hour.
Tyrion's going to explode.
The fact of the matter remains that every one of those horrible things that I described, those deplorable things in the world, I can find a direct correlation to someone's individual choice. Human beings, we create the monsters and the devils, and I'm not denying in my faith that the devil doesn't exist, but I'm saying that a lot of these things that we see as horrible are monsters of our own making. And therefore my afterlife is not going to be with a man that caused all these problems, but rather a man or woman,
A being.
I don't even know, because the Bible is kind of vague on the actual mechanics of heaven.
A horrible gelatinous blob.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. My afterlife
Truth is, it actually is the flying spaghetti
peaceful
monster.
and serene and perfect for me. That's what it is. My afterlife is perfection. That's what the goal is.
Well, okay, but
You know, and I can understand that. I can understand the want, because I've done this quite often. Actually, it's kind of my way of going to sleep almost every night anymore. Is thinking about what does happen at the end of my life cycle. You know, is there something else beyond that? Is there not? What is it like to be back in, to be dead? Be back to that state of nothingness that I was before I understood consciousness and people around me and had memory. So,
similar,
or something similar to that. But I've had those thoughts all this time, and I can understand why people would make up this fantastical fucking afterlife where they'll live on forever, being able to enjoy life with the family members that they've lost, because no one wants to fucking lose someone that's near and dear to their heart. That's not just a fucking terrible thing to have happen in life. That's a hell of a chemical imbalance that just blows your brain apart, man.
It's that realization, that moment of realization that I think honestly every atheist has is actually confronting when they become an atheist, is that moment of realization that your lifespan does not continue as long as the remainder of time that exists.
You know what? But that to me,
unless there
that's
is
to
some
me,
sort of scientific explanation to explain it, just beyond the science that we now know. Unless there is some sort of scientific explanation to an afterlife just beyond the science that we currently know.
Right. Yeah. But with what we know now and what we're looking at without religion, I'm just saying philosophically, without religion, you're faced with a situation of mortality in which you have to take that as a possibility, because it's untestable, that when your existence ends, that means that you've only been received a finite portion of the total amount of existence that there can be, and that that people who've passed before you, that there is no reunion, no quantifiable afterlife that we can test as we know it now. So it is just as likely it's the Schrodinger's cat problem. All right, it's just as likely that nothing happens as it is that something happens, but we have no way of independently testing it. There's no scientific method we know to apply.
And because of that,
there have been some attempts.
There have been attempts, but it doesn't fucking attempts mean nothing when you can't bring back any kind of evidence for it.
That's my point.
The point boils down to, for me anyways, in seeing this no answer problem in front of me, what happens after I die, my immediate thought is to jump to the fact that there is nothing more beyond it, because we haven't found anything beyond it. But that, to me, drives me every single motherfucking day to be better than I was the day before. So there's this one little thing, and this is kind of maybe a little off topic in some ways, but a lot of religious people tend to have that thought of what is the worth of the life to an atheist when their only thought is that they're going to go through life and they're going to fucking die. That, to me, is the fucking thing that drives me on a daily basis. Is I don't need to have the answer to what happens after I die. I can live with the thought that when I die, I am done, that there is nothing else beyond that. And that's fine by me, because that short time that I have on this planet is what drives me. That thought of that is what drives me to be a better person on a daily basis, to work harder, to be more, and to be able to lead people in a better way and be able to handle, for them to be able to handle any of the problems in their life because of the way that I am. And, I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm doing my fucking master's degree in business leadership, because my biggest passion, and it's something I had even when I was religious as well, was being able to lead people and make their lives better in some way, shape, or form. And I think, to me, that's what helps now more than when I was religious. God didn't help me do that, didn't help me want to be caring as caring about people as I am, versus when I became an atheist, because I lost the thought of, doing it for other reasons, and it's now just to do it for the people that I deal with on a daily basis and to be better.
No, exactly. But okay, so my point of view on this is simply that the scarcity of our existence in relation to what we know that exists as time means that what little we acknowledge that we have is infinitely more scarce and precious than a promise of an eternal afterlife. If it does happen, it'll happen. But as far as I know, my short years are my short years, and that's it. So they're more valuable to me. Wasting my time, wasting somebody's life. The thought that a child would starve to death in early childhood because the people in the world didn't care enough to help them means that person's even shorter existence was nothing but pain. And that's terrifying to me, that there have been people in this world that have lived a very brief amount of time in nothing but pain, and nothing but agony and hunger and privation, in a world that does not require that condition to exist. And so my position on religion when it comes to the public sphere is that we see these things, both atheists and people of faith, that those decisions that are made outside of a religious societal context, meaning governmental decisions and policy as a people, as a species, we have the obligation to look out for our entire species. Those decisions need to be made on what happens while we're here, that not disregard any promise of a second life. The things that happen now matter. And I hear this all the time, and it's enraging. Wait 4 years for the next president. Wait 6 years for the next Congress.
Doesn't work.
Wait for Scalia to die. Wait for Napoleon to die. Let them eat cake. It's all about postponing that time in which we've decided as a people to do the right thing for all of us. And now, by extension, I mean the ecology as well. Because if we shit in where we eat long enough, we won't have anything left to eat.
Yep.
So those policies need to be based in compassion and understanding that if you only have 20 years on this planet, you should have the best 20 years, not the worst 20 years.
I would completely agree. And I know that we're really enjoying this conversation, but I think, just for the sake of everything, the show and all that we are on that time frame that we need to go ahead and wrap it up for the night. So we can continue the conversation. I would love to continue the conversation, but I also don't want to keep you guys up way longer than you want to be. So,
I'm good, but I'd like to sit down and watch some TV for a movie or something.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go ahead and we'll cut it off here then. Hope you all enjoyed the episode. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video. Uprate this bitch so it is seen by other people. And of course, if you
don't like it, we will come for you. We know where you sleep.
We'll find out. We've got a couple of hackers down here in this little
Illuminati.
box below me. Leave comments if you guys have any about the topics that we're talking about. If you guys leave comments, we'll look at them on the next, on the next podcast and reference some stuff, depending on what the comments are. If you have good comments that are kind of part of the conversation, I know I'm not
shitty
stupid.
comments that are laughable.
Oh yes, do that. Fucking, we need like a troll or not a troll kind of segment where we're just like whether or not these people are actually serious or just a bunch of idiots.
I'm
So
actually ashamed to say I don't even know where our podcast or your podcast is posted. I've never actually gone and watched.
that is fine. I can send you a link to it later.
I've got it.
Shameful.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us, and we hope to see you guys again next time on, well, next Saturday, I guess, on the Burning Minds podcast. Have a good evening, all.